Waiting for Game, podcast presented by Melee Stats. I'm your host, Give Me That Wheat. What is my old thing? I'm a tournament seeder, top 100 something or other. I don't know. But this is important because we are talking about lists today, and really pertinent is that I am a person who had a ballot on both the PGR contenders list and the Blur rank. With me, I have a good friend of mine who also had ballots on both, and I don't know his official title, but he was some sort of Blur wrangler on the Blur rank. My friend Edwin Budding. What's up, Edwin?
Not much, man. I'm so excited to jump into Blur rank. I think we just got so much to talk about with it, like its place in the scene, rankings in general. Just really, we have a lot to dive into, and I'm especially happy because we have two returning guests. It's very difficult to get one prime guest, but getting two at the same time, two who I know have big opinions on rankings, two who I know can hold their own in a big, hard-hitting discussion on it. I'm just so ready to jump into it already. Blur, how are you doing right now?
I'm fantastic. I couldn't be better. I'm very excited about Melee going forward, particularly because I just kind of I think I'm 99% confirmed for Smash Camp and Double Down. So gonna be
Hell
going to
yeah.
tournaments pretty soon.
Cool.
Gonna do like this week-long road trip with my boy Joe Guy and Nintendude. We're gonna go from one tournament to the other. We're gonna go to like Zion or Grand Canyon. It's like a whole thing, and so I'm pretty fucking hyped about that. And of course, not long after that, there's Genesis. So we have a bit of a lull before then, though. There's some big online stuff coming up. And then I think I'm just excited to see some Melee being played. So it's a good time to be alive in the Melee scene.
I agree. Blur, you're living the dream. I literally messaged Aiden to try to convince him and Slime to like do a road trip from Smash Camp to Double Down. And I was like, you could do a Vegas episode of The Yard. That's fun. That's
Yeah.
Kind of got big dog there, so that didn't work out. But I'm glad that you are living that dream. Happy to see that. And I'm also happy to have recently confirmed the number 14th best player in the world, Moky. What's going on, Moky?
I'm just chilling, man. Just the grind never stops. I streamed like 5 hours or something. I just beat Getting Over It. It's pretty huge.
Nice.
Yeah.
What was your time for that? Do you have a time?
I think it was like 5 hours. Is it? I think it was closer to 5 than 6. I didn't look at it exactly. I honestly was just happy I could close the game.
So Moki, here's a question I have. My impression of that game has always been it's built to torture people, right? It's like trying to make streamers rage, and like that's the whole point. It's like it's not supposed to be a good game, and so am I right about that? It's just not a good game. It's just mostly meant for torture.
So I am a big fan of Pogo Stuck, which I think is like a similar kind of game, and I like that game because it feels like when I fall, it's like it's good. It's like that's my fault I fell. But in Getting Over It just felt like bullshit, man. It's like sometimes it would just glitch out and the mouse would go everywhere and I just fall a bunch. I'm like, dude, this sucks. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's probably okay. It just the first playthrough was not that,
but basically you wouldn't play it if it wasn't on stream.
Oh, I'd never play it again.
It's the Quap guy, right? Bennett Foddy. Yeah. Man, I haven't played Quap in forever. I remember, I think Amso was streaming Quap at one point, and I was pretty glued into that. But I've not been keeping up. That's sick that you've done that. You say that you had a bunch of big falls in that game. One thing you didn't have a fall in was the rankings. Yeah. Number 14 on the 2019 PGR. I believe you're 14. You might have been 15.
I was, yeah.
Okay. Number 14 on the 2019 MPGR, number 14 on the Blur rank. Let's get into it because we, this past couple weeks, we have seen the release of a few different rankings of both of great importance to the scene. A couple weeks ago, we had Zane on the podcast. We had Ipengu, and he almost revealed the North American list before it actually came out. But it did come out. We were able to see it. We have Mango's number 1, and then everything else is within tiers. And then, on MeleeStats.co a few days ago, under Monday Morning Marth, and not its own thing for some reason, we have the Blur rank that came out. Let's
It's
let's go
beautiful.
through each. I want to get your thoughts first on the PGR contenders list. Let's talk about stuff that maybe jumped out to us. Or Blur, I'm gonna let you go first. I know you have some opinions on the tiering system in general. What did you think about this list?
Nothing jumps out to me because that's what a tier list is. It's just like there's no opinions. There's nothing here that really says much of anything because it's like the B and C tiers have what the B tier has 9 people in it and the C tier has 10 people in it. Those guys can be very proud and say that I'm a C tier player. I think that's really hype and that's funny. That's the best part about it is I can walk around and talk to like I don't know, Lucky and be like, "You're a C tier player, man. Fucking sick. You're C tier Andy, dude. You're so cool, good at this game. Fucking C tier player, baby." Um, so that's cool. But yeah, I mean, I don't really know. There's a few things that like are definitely lost. For example, like you basically have in the B tier SUJ, Nunn, and Gatsu, and if you just look at their years, it's like not even close actually. How they performed, um, and so it's like just among the Falcons, like it shows like how wide a range those tiers have. So like ultimately, I feel like basically not much was said
Mm-hmm.
with this tier list. It's weird to analyze it because it's like the groupings are so large. Because yeah, I think everyone agrees. Like, I don't think there's much controversial about the way the tiering was done. Maybe you could be like, oh, Ginger shouldn't have been A tier, like something like that. You could have pushed him down, maybe. But like, other than that, I think that like the tiers are so big that they're pretty logical, and it doesn't really leave a lot of room for discussion, which is why we did the other system.
So do you see that as something that the list fails at? I mean, it feels like the purpose of the list is to have these type of big tiers where I guess doesn't need to be a lot of discussion. But is that a negative for that?
Yeah, I think what's the point? Like in sports, storylines matter. Talking about and analyzing, and having that fun communal discussion is part of it. And I think that when there's really not like I don't know what the exercise really proved or did is kind of where I'm at, where it's like we didn't really learn anything. We didn't really like we got a bunch of panelists together and we kind of did what I think like literally any Twitch chatter could have done. Because it's just it doesn't if we knew the points behind it, where they made a tier list, but we actually know where the votes went or something, maybe we'd have learned something, but they didn't want to do that, so I'm not really sure what I got out of it personally.
Well, there is a notable omission on the list. Moki, you were, I think, one of the very few people who would have been ranked on the list. I think you might have been the only one who would have actually made it on the list, but did not hit the certain threshold to get
Yeah.
on the list. In 2019, when we had the top 100, Duck was someone who fit this bill. Would have been somewhere in the top 100, but did not have enough people vote on him to actually be top 100. So this is kind of the situation that you're in. I know you have some thoughts on this, so I want to hear, what did it feel like to see something like this, and then just like walk me through the process of what you were thinking.
So it was like kind of like a multi kind of step process as it came out, because I at first I'm like I'd rather probably not be on it than be like like a C tier or whatever. Which not to say that's like bad, but just because I feel like I had a pretty good year for the most part, right? So I was like I'd rather not be on it, but then it was just like just kind of weird because obviously online wasn't factored in really, so it was just like I don't know, it just felt
Except by Edwin.
yeah. Yeah, but like it was like I guess factored here and there. So I was just kind of annoyed because it felt like the criteria was like all over the place a bit, because it was like up to some people, not up to others. Whereas I feel like with a ranking, it should probably just be like laid out, like rank based on this, and then whatever. It just felt like I don't know, kind of weird, especially given I had a pretty good year and I did have results. They were just a lot of them were online, but like
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. And then I think that was kind of it. Like I was just like, I'd rather not be on it than be on it really low, but also just kind of it like it kind of sucks to not be on it when I did have a good year, you know. So
Yeah, there seems to be like a kind of agreement here that it like it exists and it's fine because it's not like going in any direction. It's not trying hard enough to be like a big ranking. It like doesn't fail in anything, but doesn't accomplish anything. And I think that's kind of something that both of you, feel the same about. Edwin, I don't know if we spoke about this. Like, obviously we both did ballots where we spoke about that, but we didn't talk about like how we feel about it as a general concept. Like, what do you think about the idea of a tier list?
Uh, I gotta say, as far as the PGR contenders list is concerned, obviously, like because it, just to address the elephant in the room, because Panda Global is sponsored with Nintendo, like they're pretty limited in terms of like being able to directly acknowledge online play for the scene. But it kind of leaves the panelists in this weird spot where it's like you're not like given the data set of like every single event online and offline, but you're given with this kind of like internal sense of like how much you evaluate it versus offline, right? So it's like it seems like the way that PGR approached this, as we discussed on the episode with Dark Gen X, where I was apparently the only panelist who cared about online enough about online events to like explicitly include them in my evaluations of players. So
It
I
was more
actually
than
took
explicit, buddy.
yeah, so I actually took a look at my ballot right now for the PGR just to see if it was any difference. And like one of the things I noticed that immediately stands out is that I didn't exclude you from my ballot. I did include you, Moki, and I also had SJ like fairly highly because
You had him
the
like 10th, right?
I had SJ like 10th or 11th or something. So it's like one of the things that I took into account, like kind of looking in the list, is I didn't want to do it like I didn't want to do it based on like just the few events that we had in person, especially because like it seemed to kind of like drastically change the success of like someone's year or and especially like when you evaluate rankings, the way I tend to approach them, it tries to like it's like a report card, right? Like
yeah,
how well did this person
Hey, that's
how
what
well
I
did this
say.
person do?
According
Yeah,
to
I
me,
guess you do say it. But
you learn
doing
from the
well on
best.
online in a year where that's the only format for like 6 months or whatever, to me it didn't seem fair. And I tried to communicate this on the last episode, but we kept yelling at me. And Dark Gen X kept talking about one set that was played with 100 ping, even
Hey,
though
man.
there's like hundreds of sets that are played online. Like it was such a
I don't know
I just
about
kept
you
getting yelled
guys,
at.
but I want to take a step back and say, like, I personally don't think it's acceptable for, especially such a what's relatively a small community project. It's just a fucking list for Nintendo to have any say in how our rankings are formed. Like, why? Like, it doesn't need to be. It doesn't. If they really want to marry themselves to Nintendo, God bless. But then they shouldn't be the ones doing the rankings. Like, do whatever you want to do. But like, we don't. Like this is just about making a list. It's not a really complicated procedure. We've done it so many times. And it's weird for me because like I was one of the first panelists and I helped Tafo in the initial for the first list, right? And actually establishing this thing. And it's like now we can't like use certain criteria because of fucking Nintendo. Like what the hell is going on here? I personally think it's whack as shit. Um, Plus, I think that you should count online for last year. It's like very obvious, actually, that you should. It's like was over 6 months, like half of the year, right? And a lot of really important results happened. You can't just wipe that away and pretend like we didn't care. We cared at the time, right? We all collectively cared at the time. And many of them are regionalized online. Like, I don't care what anyone says. A 20 ping match is a fucking good match in Melee. Like, and sure, there's sometimes you have 50 ping match if it's like, you know, Texas to NorCal or something, but most of the time you're in like the 20s and 30s, and those are fine. Those are great, and those are valid results as far as I'm concerned. And I think 50 is honestly fine too. It's really online gets a little questionable when it's like 70, 80, 90.
yeah.
And at this point, most of our biggest online stuff is regionalized anyway. And so, you know, people can disagree about how online results should count. Certainly, when COVID, whenever it ends, don't ask me. You can argue that online shouldn't count when we'll have a full LAN calendar again. But even then, I'm not sure I want to close the door on online counting completely, because what if someone drops? I mean, I don't know what happens in the scene. What if someone drops a milli on a random online tournament? Are we just gonna be like, yo, that shit didn't count? Like, I'm not ready for that. Like, it's $1 million tournament. It counts the moment that $1 million got put down, you know? And so like I just think that you have to, when you're making a rank system, you have to keep your criteria open in whatever way possible, and just be as objective as you can be.
So I
Blur?
will say, just really quickly, having worked with PG for the all-time top 100 rankings, when it came to providing data to the panelists, what I did say was that you can count online the way that you see fit, right? Like I said, if you think these events mattered, like you can weigh them differently, like you can include them, but like this is what you have, right? One of the things I will say with this PGR contenders list is that I apparently didn't pick up the like unwritten rule in the room of not counting
See, that's also the
online
weird
events at
thing. I've
all.
heard that too, where it's basically like the panelists weren't sure if they could count it or not, but they were like, it's like, oh shit, hush, hush. They don't want to explicitly tell panelists that we can't count online because of Nintendo. And it's like, what is this shit? You can't even tell your panelists
I
like
didn't give a
the
fuck.
fucking
I counted
the
it.
fucking criteria because you
Sure
don't
did
want to
count it.
like be explicit about it because you're afraid of Nintendo reprisal. Like, this is nonsense. This is stupid. But I'm not gonna look.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna accuse that's like completely what happened or whatever. But rather, look, we're referring to a Praggle Task tweet, which heavily implied it. And nonetheless, like even if it wasn't for that, end of the day, I don't agree with the tier list. I don't agree with it being regionalized, and I don't like who the fuck is clicking into the European article right now. They have a top like the fucking 30th person in Europe. Like, are you serious right now? Like, doesn't make any sense.
I do think
It's just
I
stupid.
actually do like the European list. I think that
Yeah, you're it's cool to see.
representation of these players who are not going to be making,
Mhm.
if we're not even a top 100, right? We don't feel
Yeah, make a
confident about the
separate
results to have a
European
top
power
100.
ranking, man. But don't like exclude them from general rankings, because the truth of the matter is, like, if you actually really pay attention to all the other years, there are many years where we had way less data than we actually have this year. We all like to talk about how this year I didn't have that much data, but then you actually put the tournaments, like we did this for when we were doing the blur rank, was we listed notable tournaments, and it's a lot. There's actually a good amount. There's Summer 11, there's Summer 12, Main Stage, Riptide, SWT Championships. There's all of the SW regionals, so NA East, EU, NA West, Central America, East Asia. There's HF Land, SmashCon, Pinnacle. There was Super Vertigo actually had like 200 people or a lot of people. A lot of high level players. It didn't have 200 people. That was wrong. The Function, Nightclub. There's Low Tide City. They mentioned that. And there's all the online stuff like the SCLs, Four Loco, Pound Online, Rollback Rumble, all the TMTs, Nightclub. Like the list is pretty gallant. The list is not. It's like this is a lot of fucking data. And then you look back at like some of the retro SSBM ranks where they had like Apex and like 2 other fucking events to push them.
Yeah,
To
like
make a fucking list up.
2012 and 2012 or like 2008, like 2008 especially, where there's like one major that you have to go through.
We gave someone a year. We gave someone a year
Well, you made
for that crap. So
You made a
like,
top 10 based on that. Retro SSBM
Yeah, I
rank was a top
did.
10.
That was like one.
It wasn't.
That was one.
It wasn't a top 100.
Yeah, that was one
Sure.
of the. That was one of my first things entering the scene.
Yeah,
Blur.
it's two different,
I would.
two different things.
I would say one thing really quickly. I do think that like there is a difference between online when like offline is not available. Like when that's the only way that we can continue to run tournaments sustainably. I do think that like has to be factored differently than if like we have LAN majors fully back and forth but we still have like a few online.
all right, let's do a
events to
quick
go around.
round table. Yes or no? Based on what you just said there, do you think if you were king of the rankings, should online have counted for last year? Yes or no?
Like, yeah, I think so, but I think every
Yes.
panelist
Okay.
should weigh it.
No,
the way
I
they
want
see
yes or no.
fit.
Yes or no.
Yeah,
Moky.
I think so.
Moky, yes or no?
I think last year, since half the year was online, it should count pretty much
Yeah.
just as
I
much.
also am a yes. What
Personally,
do you think?
I think when there's like both, when there's LAN and online, you can like probably don't count it as much. But when it's like all we have and everyone's trying their ass off, like it feels kind of disingenuous not to count it because it's like it's what we did for half the year.
Sure.
I feel like this is the I'm the captain now moment. I think I'm losing my show to Blur.
I'm just asking a goddamn question here to make to make sure positions are clear.
Blur.
And it sounds like we got yeses all around. That's what it sounds like.
Blur. I'm
Well,
gonna
Blur,
answer.
one of the things like
the
again,
fuck?
wait, let me
Okay,
just
now I'm losing my
remember,
show to
it's
him?
weighing like if a panelist doesn't think that online should be counted, like that's the beauty of a panel system, right? Like someone could be like, no, what, screw this. Like I don't, I think this is basically a local. Like that's a panelist's right to do. You might disagree with them, you might think there's wrong, but if you're collecting a panel of like people to vote on results, it's better to them to have like the ability to like the direction to make that decision themselves, right?
Edwin,
That's
I love this point. I want to look at the Blur rank first because we talk about counting online. We talk about this type of stuff, and I want to get into deeper about what it means to count online. When you should count online. But before we do that, I want to talk about a list that did count online. Blur, what were your thoughts? You created this, obviously. I think you mentioned it on our show that you wanted to create a list that that was a list and not a tier list. You wanted to actually have like a bona fide list, and which you did. What was your goal in terms of like what to count? You said you counted online. Like, was it up to panelists? Was it something like that? Or did you try to give like more explicit rules?
Our prompt was pretty simple. It was, who did you think had, I think, the most impressive performance or results
I think it was calendar year, like something like
of the last calendar year. Basically, pretty simple. So when asked, and we made it pretty clear, online's counted, but it's panelist discretion how much they want to count it. Basically, like if someone thinks the online's exact same, they could have gone all the way there. I think most people didn't. I think almost everyone made it count less, but still it counted. Which is, I think, what general community consensus is at, right? Like winning Summit is more important than winning, an online tournament. That most people agree. But like if a panelist, felt a certain way, they can kind of gauge it on their own. And what we found was there was not that much standard deviation. This is where I was kind of, interested in, where like a lot of people were poo-pooing about like, oh, it's so uncertain this year, it's such an uncertain year. And then we found that it wasn't that uncertain. And actually, the lists were pretty fucking similar. And it was actually one of the most clean years that I've. Most years there's a little bit more. Pretty much had most of these 30 names on their list, so with few exceptions of a few names swapped out, a few places up here, up and down, which is what you'd expect. But it was these are the 30, and I don't think most people would argue it.
Moky, as a player, what do you think about this type of style of like criteria where it's kind of actually I've got the Google sheet right here. The criteria is both online and offline results are counted, but you should weigh offline results slightly more. So it gives the panelists up to interpretation of what slightly more means, but does sort of have a little bit more of a rigid structure than what people say the PGR ballot was. So as a player, how do you view those two?
What, like just the criteria as a whole?
Yeah.
I think I definitely prefer that, because I think the thing is with the MPGR was it was just so up in the air, because it was like it lets people like pick and choose results to like completely disclude, which I feel like is like an issue, because you can just like to like be like, okay, this result that happened at like this major tournament but it was online, we don't count that even though it had like all these people in it. And I feel like that's like not the best criteria, because it doesn't really outline it that much, and you're going to get a lot of difference in the rankings just purely based on that. And I think like at least outlining it, but not that people shouldn't, like obviously it's an opinion thing, like people have their opinion, they rank it, whatever. But I feel like at least outlining the criteria is like a lot better, because then people know like, okay, this is how I have to like kind of go about it, even if their opinions differ, I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. Edwin was kind of talking about this, so I want to bring this up. But the idea of a panel system is, like obviously for a while, since 2013, Melee has had the top 100. It's been panel based, and in that time, we've seen the PGR, now the PGRU, pop up for Smash 4 and Ultimate, which are not panel based. I think like the latest iteration was the Contenders, and I think that it was supposed to be a panel-based top 100, but then there was a global pandemic. But we've seen an algorithm based list as also one of the biggest lists in Smash, and like clearly there's a difference. And what Edwin brings up about a panel is that it's up to the panelist discretion, right? You get 30 people to vote on something, and you say, it's up to you to decide what matters. Someone is not going to look at any locals. Someone might look at locals, stuff like that. What do you think about the idea of like people picking and choosing stuff as to what to count? Like, are you up to the panelist discretion on stuff like that, or do you think it should be rigid as to like this counts, this doesn't?
I think I think rigidness is like kind of good for the most part. I think when it comes to like locals and stuff, you can like, I don't know, I guess I'm not as opposed to people being like a bit. I don't know. I feel like rigidness does count. Like if you say there's like a scale, right, and it's like okay, locals count less, and then this kind of tournament counts as more than that, and then like majors and then super majors or whatever. I feel like that's like a fine way.
Do you think it should be explicitly told to the panelists that like Genesis means more than Shine, which means more than this regional, which means more? Do you think it should be explicit in that sense?
I honestly, I don't have as strong of a take on like this as compared to like the online stuff, because I feel like it's like a bit different in that sense, because like I don't know, I feel like I don't know, I feel like most people wouldn't count like a weekly the same as like Genesis, right? And I feel like whatever, so I don't know, I don't have too strong of a take on it, honestly.
That is the beauty of a panel system, is that hopefully you get people who know a lot about Melee, and they're not like, yeah, dude, what can I say? Kadoran lost to Null once at Verdugo. Doesn't matter if Kadoran got like third at Genesis. Sorry, what? He's like,
oh man, like SJ is like 1-10 or like 10-1 versus Mega X Mix. I don't know. Like, yeah,
sorry, I guess SJ is not top 20 anymore.
Yeah, like no.
Yeah, like luckily we like that's the panel system, is like hopefully there's enough people who know their shit to like kind of counterbalance out stuff like that. I don't know, it's an interesting thing because obviously we are in a time where there are locals. There's not a ton of locals with players who are on the ballot, which will be, I assume, hopefully coming back at some point. But we have something else, which is like a kind of close corollary to this, but pretty different, which is the idea of online. So I know we were kind of nipping at the butt earlier about this, but yeah, let's get into it. Let's get into online versus offline. And I'm gonna start off by answering the question that Blur asked me, which Edwin very graciously cut me off before I could say. I did not count online when I did these lists. I made my PGR ballot first, and then Blur asked if I wanted to be a part of this. I said yes, and after some deliberation, I just thought it wasn't the ease. It wasn't because it was easier. I don't want to seem lazy. It was because I felt like morally weird submitting two separate lists for the same year. So I just didn't count online. And the statement I want to say on this is that I think online counts. I don't think it counts in the same ranking as offline. I think online is great because it's, with Slippy, with rollback, it's pretty close to what Melee is. And we know that these results aren't fake, right? We've seen a lot of people do really well, and then they go to a major, and they still do really well, right? If Kadoran suddenly got 97th at every tournament he went to in 2021, maybe then we start to like think online doesn't count. That wasn't the case, So I think it's great for seeding. I think it's stuff that's real. But when you have a report card type thing, like we talked about, I view those two things as pretty separate. It's hard for me to reckon with what does a Mango Zane set at Summit look like versus a Mango Zane set, one in Norwalk and one in, I don't know, Norfolk. Like what is like how do you reckon with that? And I don't know, maybe I'm a hypocrite for saying that local should be counted, and then also going around and saying that online should not be counted. But I see them as kind of two separate entities, and they're very close, but I don't see them as compatible.
Wait, can I give you a macro counter argument?
Sure. How macro?
So what is the purpose of a ranking? I always, like, to me, the purpose of the ranking is primarily, and this is the most important reason for it, is to grow the scene. That's the number one reason. If the rankings and the way they're formed, whatever way it is, it could be in the subjective way we have it, in an algorithm, an elo system, in whatever the fucking way we have our ranking system. Don't make players of all levels incentivized to play the game in as many avenues as possible, then they're a failure as a system, because that's their purpose. Their purpose is to make storylines and to make fandom grow and things like that. That's like the fucking point, right? We don't do these things for no reason. We want Moky to give a shit about moving up in the rank. But we also want the Owen Tour to care about playing the game, right? Like, we want all of that. And that's, to me, that's the point, right? So to me, like, the thing that is really hard about excluding things like online is that's probably where we're going to see 90+% of the players exclusively play going forward, right? The majority of the scene is going to be online from now on. And like, the Slippy numbers and local numbers are not close, right? Like, people are on Slippy all the fucking time. You queue into a match in 1 second for a reason. It is literally one of the bigger online games, period, right? And we'll never know the true numbers because there are really good reasons for that, right? You would never want Nintendo to know those numbers. But point is that a lot of motherfuckers are on Slippy. That's dope and that's great. And a lot of them will continue to be on Slippy. I don't think it'll be impossible that we're really good at the game who'll just never go to LAN tournaments, right? Now, I'm not saying those people should be ranked the same or anything like that, but rather I'm talking about just like how important online is going to be for the scene long term. And for me, I want people entering online tournaments. I think, like, this is skipping ahead a little bit, but like, you're seeing that like FlyQuest just put in a K a week for TMT, right?
Yeah.
That's a big deal. That's big time. And last I checked, Ludwig just hosted an online tournament for a hell of money. It was one of the biggest prize pools ever, right? And so I just see it from a macro scene building perspective and think that, like, look, online should be a large and robust part of our future. Uh, it won't be our big stage. It won't be our grand final. Like, none of us think that, but rather it will probably be our, where like those noob tournaments are held, where for new players. It will be where people train on a weekly level and try to grow as people. It's where people will grow their streams, like through tournament runs, constantly for their content. All this stuff, none of that stuff happens. Like, their streams are less important and less exciting when everyone's like, none of these matches matter. These are kind of garbage games. This is all bullshit. And so for me, like, that's really, if you're gonna have a tiebreaker, this is ultimately, this is more than a tiebreaker. This is like the whole point of the thing. The whole point of the exercise to me is to grow the scene, and I don't want to do anything that undermines that. So we should count it all in mind.
You mentioned a lot of things. You mentioned a lot of wonderful reasons for why online is important. I don't see them as one-to-one with why ranking should be counting online, though, right? 0-2 tournaments, does that affect, like, that's something that's, people are going to enter that because there's no one looking at that from a ranking perspective. And like, yeah, I guess the question of, how is top level competition in the online era, how's that influenced by rankings? Because we know that once offline came back, Summit 11 happened, and there still weren't events for a couple months, but there were no big online events after Summit 11 returned. It just kind of died until LICS came back. You can look at the gallants, and even those are pretty small compared to the gallants pre-Summit 11. But stuff like people practicing, stuff like people growing their stream doesn't seem like it's necessarily in the same boat as...
It totally is. It's all the same boat, bro. And I think you're thinking really small. So you're saying the O2 tournament, no one's looking at the results. That's because we haven't automated. We haven't figured out ways of smartly doing like other ways of ranking people. I think one of the hardest things and one of the biggest pain points in Melee, and anyone who came up in the scene knows this, is that when you're a freaking noob, there's no way to gauge your skill until you're like minimum state PR level, and then people are giving you flowers, right?
For sure.
But like, majority of your time, which is usually sometimes 4 or 5 years before you're at that level, like, you don't even know how good you are, and no one cares. Like, nothing you do matters. No one's paying attention, and you're completely irrelevant, right? That's a really bad system to encourage tournament attendance. That's actually the opposite of encouraging tournament attendance, especially now that tournaments are competing with unranked and like just queuing up and doing that, right? Like where people are like not sure if they have to face the friction of going outside their house and all that, right? So like to me, that's like you're not seeing rankings for the bigger picture, right? Like ultimately, like other esports are solving this problem, which is like they have bronze, silver, gold. They have progression systems for the lower level.
Mm-hmm.
We should probably think about incorporating that in the way we do our things. But
Yeah,
but
well,
not
there'll
just
probably be a ranked system at some point.
that'll help a lot. Like that'll help a lot. But I think it'd be great if the tournament ecosystem could somehow get funneled into that. Like can be integrated so that actual tournament games are a way we can measure people. But I think so many problems for the scene. So that's good. But also for top level competition, I think that like you're again on the TOing angle, right? Like Kevin Deere was pulling teeth to try to get players to enter his fucking online tournament, right? It was hard. And one of the main reasons is because like the players are like they don't know what the fucking point is. What are they putting their name on the line for? And that's not good. We want people to like put their but we want to have high level melee matches. Dude, I don't know about you. I'm personally sick of the cycles of having like 2 to 3 months of no fucking real melee content. Like
For sure.
as a melee fan, that shit's whack. And what's preventing that stuff from happening is that when someone goes out there and hosts an online tournament, the big names don't show up and they won't go. You'll ask them, they won't go. Right. And so like it'd be nice if we incentivize that even a little bit.
I want to hear from Edwin and Moky on this really quickly. I want to say one thing is that I think that we are getting a little in the weeds of what rankings mean. If I could make two disparate statements, I would say, should online count? Yes. Should online 100 or top 50, whatever the future of a PGR looks like. At that point, I say no, right? I think those are two different statements. Also, I don't know if the future, if you have tournaments that people can go to, land tournaments where it's safe to go to and not a hassle to internationally cross the border. Like if you have tournaments like that, I don't know if top level people would prefer entering a tournament where they could have an 80 ping match right? Like if that's their thing that they're going to be base their rank off of, people might shy away from that. We've already seen people shy away from certain tournaments because they don't want it to affect their ranking. I don't see why that wouldn't affect online. Edwin, I want to hear your thoughts on this. You've been a little quiet. I know you've got thoughts brewing.
I was actually gonna cede to Moki because I want to hear what he has to say, and we've talked about this a lot already.
This is a nice little like double play. I'm like throwing the ball to you from third base. You're catching it and throwing it over first. All right, Moki, what's your thoughts?
So, I think like in a perfect world in my head, you would probably count it differently, like we'd saying, of like online probably doesn't count on the same ranking, or you count it less, or whatever. But I think the fact that we're not in that world and there's a pandemic and everybody,
a perfect world wouldn't have COVID.
Yeah, so I think like just the fact that everyone is trying, there at least like say last year, right, when nothing was happening, like everybody was trying and it's all we have. It's just like it's like all we have, I just think like I don't know. I agree that when there's both, then it's perfectly fine to count online less, and I'd probably do the same. But I just think that in terms of like rankings, online versus offline, a year where half the year is online because people can't travel, there's a pandemic, it's like whatever, and then half the year is offline, then I feel like you kind of have to intermingle it. Otherwise, it's not fair to the people who didn't have the opportunity to travel, or like they did, like I don't know, just like pretty much that. Just it feels unfair to the people.
Here's what I'll say, for the next 2 months minimum, the biggest and most important tournaments in the melee scene will be the fucking TMT onlines, right? There's literally going to be nothing until then, right? For the next 2 months, that's just straight up, that's all that matters. And then you're going to be telling me that for the whole entire 2 months, we got to be like, now this shit matters. None of this shit matters. This is all whack. This is all lame. This is a waiting room for Genesis and those tournaments. And we're all just here twiddling our thumbs for 2 months. You're telling me that shit's fucking good for the scene? I don't think it is. I think that's really bad for the scene. And so I don't want to live in a world where we're in that mentality, and I think it's corrosive. So I'd rather not participate in it.
I think the main reason why I don't agree with you is so well captured by Moki. But the main thing is that like when the conditions for actually playing Melee against other people are limited to just online, and you're making a rankings list for an entire year, I do agree that online and offline are separate. Like I would never treat like I think we can all agree that like I think Zane or Mango would rather win Genesis than LACS, right? But like if LACS is the only like thing that's around that's worth winning at, at a or if an event like LACS is the only like way that players can test their skills against each
Yeah.
other in the case of traveling, I just think it's really wrong. Like I think it's a bad. I think it sets a. I think like if they're both around, I can understand treating them separate because the options are there. But in the reality we live in, when we're assessing how players are doing in Wheat's wonderful report card
The
analogy, I
classic.
just think it's like very I think it gets rid of the stakes for what we have. And also I'll say it, like I agree that there's like 100 ping sets here and there and stuff that's bad, but like it's kind of like I actually don't really like the argument that's used to like cite individual like examples of like high profile sets that are bad or like played on bad ping, because like I think online is actually a pretty good way in terms of sorting the mid level of players through sheer like volume. I think there's so much data that it gives us that I would say that like I think like a pretty good, like I don't think assault mines event or whatever is like equal to say like Smash Camp or anything, obviously. But I do think that like it's functionally like I do think it falls functionally within like the locals category of results, that it's better to have that to kind of use as the initial smell test for how a player might do, and then
Plus,
seeing if majors back up the true story.
plus, I
Or
mean, if we're
whatnot.
being honest, like look at the online results. They've looked like what I think LAN results would be
They
pretty
look
much.
good, yeah.
We've had only one outlier, and that was HBox before he turned his Bluetooth headphones off, before he switched headphones. That was the one outlier. Ever since he switched, all of a sudden the Harry Poggers losses are gone. Like every online tournament he goes in, it's like first, second, or something, and it's like pretty normal with what you'd expect him to do. You know what I mean? It hasn't been that weird. So I don't know, man. Like for me, it feels like if anything speaks to his legitimacy is that, right? Whereas, by the way, when you look at ultimate online results, it's literally chaos. It's actual chaos. Like that, I'm like, all right, all right. This is actually straight whack. But the truth is, the Slippy's really good. It's genuinely really fucking good. And so it doesn't look that different to me.
Blur, did you know that there is, for Ultimate, there is a Wi-Fi rank? Did you know this? Wi-Fi Warrior rank.
That's pretty funny.
WWR. This has existed since like 2018. This has existed since the Smash 4 days. They've been on the idea of net play only rankings. And
They
like
actually have a lot of players that are Wi-Fi warriors only. Like, unironically, there's like legitimate people who are insanely good at that game who have never gone to a tournament, and they will
we
never
talk
go to a
about the
tournament.
reasons why online's great for Melee, and a lot of the reasons are there's young people who don't have access to transportation to get to tournaments. There are people from areas of the world where they can't easily get to big tournaments.
Mhm.
Like there's a lot of different reasons. You talk about that for Melee, it goes double for Ultimate because they are younger than us and more international than us. So for sure they deserve a reason to have something like that. I kind of want to wrap this up soon because I feel like we've gotten to a good point, but I want to quickly ask, like, would we be opposed to the idea of a separate online rank?
Yes. Why
So you want
all these rank, like
so you
literally,
want it
like
all the same.
the more rankings you have, the more confusing it is for spectators. Let's just fucking
Well, you
make a
hold
fucking
on,
list,
but
bro.
you
How
made
hard
your
is
own
this?
rank adding to a PGR. Yeah.
I don't think actually we made two lists. I think we made one list, which is the fucking one I made. I think what they made is the fucking tier list. What the fuck gives a shit about tier
Wow.
lists? What the fuck is that shit, bro? Like, like, oh, the B
Damn.
tier, oh, the B tier. Like, they didn't make a list. There's one list out right now. There's like a whole nother thing that like this tier crap that they're doing, but there's legitimately there's one list out right now in my opinion, and that's the one that's out there.
Moki, I want to pick your brain on this.
So
I know that you are an international player.
Yeah.
And so that like right now that is harder. It is harder for you to get to stuff. And even when we're, in perfect times, I know that flight prices are higher and everything like that. So it's not, maybe not the best example, but how would you feel about a ranking that combined, I know you said you want it separate, but like going into a set, how would you feel about entering a tournament? Would you like stop entering tournaments that are big because you might have the chance to play like Meds in Arizona or something as an important set, or would you continue to enter? Like, do you think this will stop players from entering top level events, online events?
What if there was like separate rankings, or if you
If there
combine
were
them?
this, let's say there's one combined ranking, right?
Yeah.
Like, do you think the top player mentality is to like enter more events because they count, or to not enter events because they're mixed with in-person events?
Honestly, I guess it could go both ways, right? It could be like people want to enter it more because they. I guess if offline's back, I could see it making people enter less
Mm-hmm.
because they would be like, "Fuck this!" Like
They'd
I'd
probably be
rather
entering
enter
less
online.
already, though.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. Like they'd be like, "Fuck this" even more, I guess, and just be like, "Yeah, like I may as well just not enter because I'd rather go to this and play on LAN and whatever it's gonna potentially harm my year." But I think the thing with online rankings also that I think could be weird is that I guess like on like I don't know, having like a separate rank for online and offline. Online just sounds very. Feel like it like delegitimizes it a bit just by separating it to the point where people probably wouldn't care about it that much. And I just don't. I don't. I guess I don't really know the like a good fix for it because I could see it. There's like I guess issues with whichever way you go about it.
We're kind of talking from a perspective a little further in the future than when online was really at the highest, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like maybe if before Summit 11, if Summit 11 hits and we immediately drop a top 50 online from July 2020 when Slippy drops to
Yeah.
June 2021, right before Summit, maybe is that a different story?
Mm, Uh, uh, what like if we
Like,
are you talking about if we're making it then or
yeah, if we were making it then, like an online only ranking, but also before LAN came back, so there wasn't like separation of the two. It was just online being ranked.
I think
Because
that
that
would have
one I'd
been
be
like
more okay with. I
yeah.
don't like the mixing of the two. And I don't think I think you're right. I think Blur's guy has a great point that like having two separate lists doesn't feel right. But if there were an online only ranking when online was the only thing, legitimately, I think that would be something I'd be more okay with.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that. I wouldn't have issues with that, I think.
Edwin, what are your thoughts?
I think this is where a panel system is beautiful. I think it would be great to have a group of knowledgeable people given the data that they have, organized obviously in what's online versus what is a local versus what is a major and whatnot. I think this is something that like I would trust, like maybe not everyone in the scene, but many of the panelists, at least the ones with Melee Stats. Maybe I just think Melee Stats should always do rankings because we're good at it. But I think this is actually I think this is like one of the beautiful things about a panel system. And I would also argue that I think it's better to have the data there for for representatives of the community to decide what they want to do with it, right? So this is why this whole thing is so great, right? Like I don't agree with Wheat at all about online
Hey,
versus
fuck you.
offline for 2021. I think that's I just think that's a really I don't agree with that approach for last year.
You're gonna
But
call me
that's a,
closed-minded?
yes, but I think that this is a perspective that that someone who is knowledgeable about the scene has. I think that there's other people like I won't say I think online and offline are the same, but there might be someone who thinks that like the volume of online is like at like a higher weight than like everyone else in a way that I think that maybe I don't think is necessarily fair. Like maybe this person thinks that like 10 salt mines results are equal to like are equal to I always go back to the salt mines for some reason.
You love it.
10 results there are equal to like one big Northeast regional or something, right? Maybe I look at that person's list and I think, wow, you're nuts. Like I wouldn't do this. But this is the beauty of a panel system. You have all these different perspectives weighed in how the community feels about these things. So
Edwin, by
that
this
would be my
point,
answer.
you got to learn democracy doesn't work. You're shaking hands at both sides of the aisle. Guess what? Nothing gets done. I think we've made good points about why online should count. I think I made wonderful points about why online should not count. But I think you got to pick one, right? Going into the 2022 MPGR, whatever it is, if it's a tier list, if it's a top 100, if it's top 50, whatever it is, I think the one thing that needs to be done is there needs to be clear delineation between whether or not online is counted and whether or not it's not. I don't want everything to be in the data and then it's just like,
What they say
You
they're doing
figure it out.
again? Do I have to do this shit again? I barely got done with, like, I literally had to go through, like, Jagzilla and Edwin had to drag me to the finish line on this.
yeah,
bullshit.
I don't think we mentioned that. Is that you?
Yeah, it's whatever. We don't have to talk
So,
about it. We
wait,
don't have
really
to talk
quick-
about
a
it.
Discord message that said
Wait,
you
really
were taking a long
quickly.
weekend and to be done.
I
by
really don't want to
Monday
fucking.
in January.
I don't want to do it again. Can they just fix their shit? Like, what's the problem here? Like,
Wait,
this
so
is a
really
list.
quickly,
this is so
we-
easy.
We all came into this conversation where me, Moky, and Blur all agreed that online should count in some capacity, and
Guess
Wheat
what?
said
You guys
no.
didn't change my mind.
Yeah,
You did a
we're
bad job. You did a
we're
bad job arguing
re-entering
this.
we're
closed-minded person.
re-entering this argument again. Blur and Moky, have your opinions changed at all?
Absolutely not. I'm also a closed-minded person.
Yeah, I think it should still. I think it should still count and be up to the discretion of the panel. What do you think, Moky?
Two people who would never change their mind ever.
I think Wheat made good points,
Oh,
but I disagree still.
You're destroyed. You're destroyed.
Not
Wheat,
how
you
you
lose.
win.
You lose. I win. Edwin wins. Edwin.
Not how this
Edwin
works.
always wins.
You know, it's a good
you
conversation when
Your-
no one
your-
changed their
Your
mind.
points are worse than
Hey,
you're
hey,
worse than they're worse than mine. They're worse than Blur's. They're worse than Moky. It's
No.
three years to one. You lose.
I think I won because I'm speaking to a good friend of mine. I'm speaking to two people who I admire. I'm in front of, I can't see the Twitch numbers, but I assume thousands of adoring fans. And all those fans probably agree with me. So,
That sounds like
think I
a
ended up
loser to me.
well, Edwin,
It's-
we've got two losers to name in our next segment here. Blur, we did not do a Edwin Budding Stock Exchange last time you were around, and Moky, I'm not sure if it existed while you were around.
we
on our
did
last
one,
episode.
yeah. We did
Okay,
one.
What is
so
it?
so you know what it is. Edwin, do you
What
want to
is it?
explain what this is?
Yeah, so basically, I just ask you a bunch of hot topic questions
Beast.
in a different format,
You gotta
and you get
sell
like
it more,
30
man.
seconds. You get 30 seconds to answer it. All right, you ready? And I'm gonna go through like each of you gets like 30 seconds to talk.
Edwin,
I'm
I know
actually
you,
keeping like track of time here. It's just 30 seconds kind of loose. Like,
Edwin, I know you're a big sound effects guy, and we've gone really crazy on like, back and forth on what we should do for a soundboard, and Ambi and I think that you should not be allowed a soundboard. I think you should have
Such
an intro
bullshit,
for the
man.
Edwin Budding Stock Exchange. There should be like a sound like the Wall Street, like whistle or whatever, just there like a bell or something.
is this
It
your
should
way
be
to
that.
trying to compromise me?
No, I would never compromise.
No,
with
this
you.
no. You're saying a sound. This is pretty close. I'm
I
gonna
have
see
an
how
own
far I
separate
can pull
idea,
this.
and the only reason I'm bringing
But
it
it
to you is
involves a
because I
sound.
believe in the idea.
No, but it involves a sound. You were against sounds totally before.
Let's go ahead with the Edwin Budding Stock Exchange.
All right, so our first segment is called Buy One, Sell One. So I'm going to name two things in Melee, and you got to tell me which one are you buying and which one are you selling.
Within
You
30
can only buy
seconds,
one,
right?
you can only sell one.
Okay.
All right. So the first one, and I'm going to start with Moky.
Okay.
Moky, are you buying Falco Optimism? Or, excuse me, let me try that again. Buy one, sell one. Falco Optimism or Falco Pessimism?
What, in
Moky.
terms of how people think their character is, or how I think their character is, right? Kind of. I'm gonna buy. Let's say Falco Optimism. I'm gonna buy that, and I'm gonna sell Falco because, dude, there's so many. Online, so many fucking people play Falco. I go on unranked, and so many people, and I feel like especially when we go back to more like offline stuff, some of those people have to be good, right? Like, there's just so many. Like, there's surely some of them
Surely.
pretty disgusting. Like,
Not the way they're playing, dude. Let me tell you something. The way they're playing, they're going to be hard stuck for a long
All right,
time.
Blur.
Blur's
I just
30
want, all right, Moky,
Blur's
you
30
give an
seconds has already
answer.
started.
Blur did interrupt you, so I'm actually gonna go to Wheat next. Blur, you gotta wait your turn.
How many seconds did Blur talk right there? You should deduct that from his 30
Yeah, it's
seconds.
like 5 or 10 seconds.
All right,
Wheat, go
well,
on.
double that for the penalty, so he's got 10 seconds to talk. You know what, Edwin? I almost called you Wheat by accident. You know what, Edwin? I'm going to buy Falco Optimism. I think that pessimism in these days, in these online times where we're hopefully going back to offline, that could be a good idea to buy pessimism. But I think we've got some really great Falco mans. And as long as you are on Twitter and follow or are following someone who likes any of the tweets from these two accounts, Fiction IRL and SSBM Ginger, I think it's impossible to not see Falco optimism. We talked about this before. Fiction got like destroyed by Kadoran. It was close. It was close stats. But he lost 2 sets to Kadoran, and he was like, yeah, Falco wins that. And how many times have you seen Fox players get destroyed by Marth and then say Fox wins that? Come on. I got to go with Falco on this one.
All right,
I got to
Blair.
go with Falco optimism.
You got the last word.
So, I mean, I think it's pretty clear Falco optimism. I think that character's broken. I don't like, we love to make tier lists, but the truth is it's very possible that Falco's the best character in the game. It's also very possible that Falco's like fucking 5th or some bullshit, but it's more likely that he's in the top 3 and very, very possible still that he's the best. He's fucking insane, right? You just look at the character's tools. He can do double laser from ledge dash, and side B, and all those are like uncoverable. Like when you mix them in by like pretty much all the top tiers, that's like kind of insane. And then you have lasers like for stage control. You laser a cornered opponent, and like you actually like break down
All
the
right.
game, and you're like, what the fuck can they do?
Okay.
So the
all
point
right, so
is
you're buying.
Falco's broken, and also
You're
the
buying
player
optimism.
base, the flashes of the world, the fiction's gonna get even better. Like,
Okay.
they're
All right, we got to
crazy.
move on to the second question. Wheat, buy one, sell one. Pikachu Fox as a dual main or Sheik as a solo main?
Wait, are you telling us what who won?
Oh, right. Oh, Wheat
Give
won
scores on the
Wheat won the
screen.
first one. I forgot.
You know what I
A little
forgot to
rusty.
say for Falco? Falcon's better. There's more Falcons. He's good at that matchup. Sheik and Peach, where even-ish one way or another.
Okay,
the less Cheeks and Peach. Yeah, go on. What was
Really,
the question?
so it was Pikachu Fox as a dual main or solo maining Sheik. You have to buy one. You have to sell one.
I'm gonna buy solo maining Sheik. I don't believe that solo, or what is it, a dual main of Pikachu Fox will stick around. We've talked about this. It's like the idea of having a mid tier and then having a high tier secondary for the bad matchups is just like, well, that's probably just going to turn into a Fox main and you go Pikachu for Marth, right? Like, there's very few things where you'll be able to like balance it all and be like, no, I got to play Pikachu versus.
That sounds broken, by the way. So it sounds like they're buying.
I'm gonna sell because I don't think it exists being a dual main of those two
Okay.
characters, because eventually you just become a Fox main who's got a Pikachu secondary.
All right, Blur did interrupt again, so I'm gonna actually skip him for this one and go straight to
He's doing
straight
it
to
on
Moky.
purpose. He knows that it's best to be last.
Oh my god.
All right, Moky, tell me, Pikachu Fox is a dual main or solo maining Sheik? You gotta buy one, sell one.
Dude, it's so hard. I might legit say Pikachu Fox. Just I think Sheik is so good, but like Fox is just busted. Like we're not just specifying what dual maining is. We don't it doesn't specify how much someone uses Fox compared to Pikachu. I'm gonna say I don't know, like Pikachu, you could cheese out the fast followers a little bit if people don't know the matchup. Also Marth, pretty good. Then you play against Sheik, you just go Fox. You whip out your Fox, you go ham. You play against like Puff, you whip out your Fox, you go ham. I don't know. I feel like it covers some bases. It's not like the best dual main, but like I can see it. Swift's popping off. Swift looks disgusting. He beat H-Box with his Fox, and then he beats someone else with his Pikachu. It's great.
All right, Blur. I think I know where you're leaning on this, but give me your answer.
This is an easy one. Pika Fox is an insane combo. That combo is just filthy. Sheik, you're gonna have to learn some really hard matchups, but Sheik is a good character. You can do it. With between the Spaceys, Puff, and ICs, like those are things you're gonna have to sort through. With Pikachu, you have like 2 counter picks on so many characters. You have FD and Fountain on both on Spaceys and Falcon. Like that's pretty fucking disgusting. Last I checked, and you're gonna have a Fox in your back pocket in case they actually know the matchup. Which is like insane of itself. Plus, you're gonna have like 100% win rate against Marth, which is like 20% of the scene. So that's pretty good. So yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like Pika Fox is nuts.
I loved the emotional candor of Blur's answer, so I'm gonna give it to him there.
It doesn't
Definitely
exist.
sound very legit.
It
Okay,
won't exist.
the
Like
last
legitimately does
buy
not
one
exist.
sell one. Blur, you don't get to interrupt anyone this time because I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start with you. You gotta tell me buy one sell one. Pikachu or Ice Climbers?
This is like the easiest question of all my entire life. You're talking about an extinct character. Literally, we banned this character, but somehow a dude snuck into the top 30. Don't ask me about that. Slug somehow made it. But for the most part, a character that's completely out of the metagame, except for one guy who's like basically exploiting. He's changed the game. And then you have this other character, which I think is just genuinely pretty good. I mean, obviously, like people like overrated. Like, I've always been of the opinion that like the actual top tiers of the game are actually just stupid. And Melee is really like a 6-7 character game. But I
Okay,
think P's
Blur,
the
you gotta
next,
give
the
me an
best of the next
answer.
is like the best of the next, and still viable. And,
Okay, so you're buying Pikachu and selling Ices.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Wheat, tell me Pikachu, Ices, buy one sell one.
I'm gonna name 3 sets, Edwin, and you should be able to figure out from there. Slug versus None at main stage. Lunar Dusk versus KGH at LACS 4, and Shootat versus Accolade at LACS 4. We go through ebbs and flows to this character where everyone thinks they're great versus the character, and then they forget to learn the matchup, and they come back. And guess what? We have seen an Ice Climbers in the top 30. And like the idea that Pikachu is suddenly going to be good because we've got Axe, who's probably at the worst that he's been in years, still very good. I like Axe, but just performance wise, this year's not been too hot for him. And we've got a guy who is going Fox more often. I don't buy that Pikachu is something other than 2 outliers. Ice Climbers, I believe.
OKP. We'll continue.
He interrupted. I believe that Ice Climbers have the ability to always do well in the meta, even when it like the resilience has been shown, and even though they don't have wobbling, they're still seeing really good results. And I think that they do well versus characters like Sheik. If I see an Ice Climbers play Ben, like come on, man, I love Ben, but there's a
All
lot of
right,
people
so
who they get in it. You put an Ice Climber in someone's path, and then suddenly I'm a little more
so you're
worried.
buying Ices and
I'm buying
selling Pikachu.
Ices.
Got it. Moky,
Lunar
tell
Dusk,
me what you
Slug.
think.
I think this is a very good question because it's very hard. I might buy Ices as well. I think that, especially against fast followers, obviously Pikachu does pretty good against fast followers and whatever as well. But like, I don't know, especially like right now, people kind of forget the matchup the tiniest bit. And I also think that since wobbling was just banned, like obviously the character's nerfed a bit, but like people are pushing the character in other ways. And like when I play Slug or Lunar Dusk at LACS or whatever, I'm like, dude, how the fuck did you hit me with that? Like I swear to God, like Ice Climbers were not like this good like a while ago because they're like forcing like improvements in other aspects of the character, and they're like really pushing it. And like I don't know, I think they both struggle against kind of similar matchups a lot of the time. Like Peach sucks for both of them, Puff sucks for both, but like I don't know. If you're Ices and you get a grab on one of them somehow at the edge, you still kill them, or like whatever. I don't know.
So you're gonna buy Ices and sell Pikachu.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna give this one to Wheat.
Also, Army versus Ginger at Rollback Rumble, the big one. Remember
Okay.
that?
I do.
Wait, Moky, real quick. Speaking of Ice Climbers, I never asked you this. You beat Ryan Ford with Ice Climbers once, right?
It was at a weekly, and he went Falco all the games except the last game.
Okay.
He went Fox.
I watched that.
I wobbled so fucking hard.
I watched that
Yeah.
live. Then did you go Ices versus KK after that?
Yeah, I got
watched that
3-0'd,
live
but it
and,
was
like,
close, dude. After
tried
that
to
set,
look for the VODs or
pretty
like
funny.
the tournament. Could not find that. And I remember telling people that you beat Ryan Ford with Ices, and no one would believe it.
dude.
Moky.
Yeah, so what's up?
All right. We're gonna go into our second segment, and I want you to start it. It's called "Are You Buying the Dip?" I'm gonna name something that's currently at a low evaluation, and you're gonna tell me if you're gonna buy it with the expectation that it's gonna increase in its stock. Okay. So basically, something that's on the low that you think is gonna blow up. Okay. So Moky, tell me, are you buying the dip on Arcadians?
Yeah, easily. I think like a juicy Arcadian right now would be so sick, especially like depending on what the criteria is for the Arcadian. If we're like, okay, people who like if you're letting people who are like they weren't ranked before, I guess, like on LAN or something, and you're letting like the people like Aklo or whoever in, like depending on what your criteria is, that's like a lot of people that people know. And even if you're not excluding like the MPGR contenders, there are like so many people on this list who are really good that people are gonna be like, oh shit, this guy entered this tournament. Let me watch this. So I'm easily buying the dip on that. I've been thinking that actually the last like week. I had the thought. I'm like, a nice juicy like, like national Arcadian or something like that'd be sick.
All right, Wheat, tell me, are you buying the dip on Arcadians?
You know what? I've got a little bit of a small buffer here, so I'm gonna be the dissenting opinion. I'm not gonna do it. Do you want to know why? It's a great idea, and if it were ever to happen, it'd be a ton of people. I don't think TOs want to run it because it's a headache to figure out what Moki was just saying. Right? With online, a lot of people have not been releasing rankings. There's people who only play online. And online Arcadian would be sick, but like the logistics of it and having to decide who counts and who doesn't, I think is not worth it for any of these large TOs. I mean, it'll be really cool, and obviously we've got a lot of events that cater to lower level players, like Tired of O2 or Only Noobs and stuff like that. So it's very possible. But I mean, I've seen nothing that makes me see that like TOs want to run something like this. So if it were to ever happen, it would be a great idea. But I'm going to be the dissenting opinion. I'm going to say I'm not going to buy it because I don't think it's going to happen
Blur,
anytime soon.
Arcadians, you buying the dip?
Yes, and I'm holding until ranked comes out, which is when I think it'll spike. Because I think people will be able to do stuff like, oh, only bronze players, only silver players, shit like that. Because what Wheat's saying is right, that right now it's just actually really hard to host an Arcadian because we don't have rankings that go very far down. And we don't have a lot of regional rankings. Only SoCal put one out, but like for the most part, regions aren't doing rankings right now. So I don't even know how you could do one. Like I can't say it's going to be pop off right now because like most regions you couldn't even do one if you wanted to. And so yeah, I think once Slippy Ranked comes out, Arcadians will be real big in the scene, and I think they'll play a big role.
All right, this one goes to Moki. So for the next question of are you buying the dip? Wheat, are you buying the dip on crew battles?
Yeah, I'll buy the dip on crew battles. Do you want to know why? SoCal NorCal crew battle is amazing. I put it on. I got all these weirdos to care about something. None of them got paid for it. There was nothing behind this except for their love of Genesis and their tolerance of me as a person. And if that's the case, if that awesome crew battle could come out of that, then I truly believe that we will be seeing crew battles at events. I mean, people were hungering for like Moderna versus Pfizer crew battles. Obviously, people don't care about that much more. But I think like that's a fun thing that logistically is pretty much a nightmare online, and that's the reason why like we really haven't seen them aside from Homemade Waffles having that crew battle segment. It's just something that like the logistics of running online makes it kind of a headache, and people tend to shy away from it because it's not worth the effort. But in person, where you can just get 5 people huddled up and just swap them out, I think it's a great entertainment value, and I think that's something that the community's done for years. I'm definitely that's going to continue.
Blur, crew battles, you buying the dip?
Yeah, because it can't go any lower. I mean, shit. Same with doubles, right? It's kind of like in terms of the other two, Melee's always been like a 3 format game, like a 2.5, I'd say, with doubles and singles, and then Cruise has always been like the other format. And for whatever reason, the first time in my time in Melee, it's turned into a basically like a single format game ever since COVID started, which is like super weird. And I don't really think the stock of crews could go lower, so why not? And if these garbage ass TOs like start running it like they should be, then it'll find great success because crews are entertaining and everyone loves them. So it really depends on if the TOs pick up on it.
All right, tell me what you think, Moki.
So I think there's no way I win this one because I am hesitantly gonna buy them because I don't like playing them that much. Personally, I think they're an annoying format to play, but with stuff coming back and the environment around them to watch them, it's really fucking sick. And we haven't being able to do that, because especially like a regional crew battle like at Big House, it's like everyone has their boys behind them. Everyone's fucking losing their shit because it's like, man, like we're the best region. Canada, let's go, or Midwest, let's go. And I think that environment's been missing for a long time, and that's kind of why people play Melee. It's because of that kind of like rowdiness, and that is bound to go up once something's actually able to be run like that. Because I know WoW did like an online crew battle, and it didn't really feel like the same in terms of that, because you didn't have people there like screaming. That's like the point of it. You just watch your people you support just and scream and holler and whatever, and it's a fun time. So I am buying it.
All
I
right.
guess I'm not hesitantly buying it anymore. But
All of you had very good answers. I got to give that one to Moki again. So two points
reverse
streak.
psychology, baby. Oh yeah.
So for the last question on are you buying the dip, Blur, are you buying the dip? And listen closely because this is this is a specific thing. Are you buying the dip on combo videos?
Why is it specific? I don't understand why that was a hard question.
Well, not like combo clips, combo videos.
Oh, I see. I say no because of exactly what you just said. I think combo clips and like little short things, like when Acidex or Forest or Ryobeat post things, seem to be the way it's been going. People aren't really doing full on edited stuff at the moment because short form seems to be the fix for now, and I expect that to continue for a bit.
I'd probably be interested to know what you specifically say is clip versus video. Like, I don't know if I can answer questions in these segments, but if you were to consider like multiple different interactions from different games being put together, multiple different combos, if that's a clip, then yeah, I don't think I'm buying this. If that's a video, then yeah, I would buy it. I think that Slippy and stuff like Clippy has given people a lot of amazing ways to capture stuff that they do in game, and it's literally the best way that people can that's like ever existed in Melee. But Blur's right. Like people aren't clicking on YouTube videos. People like the way that these get shared to the world has changed. We do see Acidics and we do see Forest and we do see people like this, like Bab and Squid the Cat. They do put together multiple different clips, multiple different combos into one longer video. Maybe it has music, maybe it doesn't. It's up to you whether I don't know if like a minute long Twitter video counts. I guess my answer for this is if it can be shown on Twitter, yes, I think that's a great thing. I'm buying the dip. If it has to be something where like it shows a clip on Twitter and you have to like click the link to go to YouTube, no, people aren't doing that.
Yeah, that's what like a classic YouTube upload combo
No,
video.
I think the world has changed. I think people don't use YouTube like that for combo videos anymore. So I'm not buying that dip.
All right, Moki, Mr. Combo Man himself, you get the last word.
I am not buying the dip because I actually when I was first getting into the scene, I loved combo videos, and I honestly attribute a lot of the reason I got good at Melee because I'd watch just combo videos. I'd wake up, I had one combo video I'd watch every single day. I'd wake up, watch it, and then go and grind Melee and try to copy shit. And like, it's just not like I can't really bring myself to watch them anymore. I just like I don't know, like I don't want to like listen to music and watch the video. It just I think that clips, yeah, like we're like Zoomer brain now. We just like little tidbits. I think like clip channels are like a good idea because you can just like if you want to watch a combo, you can just like click on it and like you watch something, or like it pops up on Twitter and it's cool. It's just like I don't know. It's like a commitment to watch a combo video, and there's nothing much more to it than just like watching, combos with music. And sometimes you don't want to necessarily do that anymore, especially when there's like that used to be like the big way to watch it because people would make combo videos, and now it's like there's just clips. It's a lot easier to just like watch clips in like a sitting. I don't know.
I am very impressed because Moki, you have just won the "Are you buying the dip?" triple crown, based on your answer. I think that
before?
Yeah, I think that might be a first. I'll have to go check the
I think you're
archive.
just sucking up to him, to be honest. I don't think he's had a better answer than me and Blur this entire game.
Yeah, he's had pretty good answers.
He's had pretty good answers.
If I'm honest, I didn't even.
You guys have good
in the
answers
last
too.
section, so
I think we've
just
had
not pretty
answers. I think
Well,
Moki's been pretty good, but I think we.
Well, remember, he's only at 3 points. Moki,
All right,
Moki could still lose.
Let's go to the
Yeah,
whatever the
the
next one
last
is.
one,
It's
the last
like
The next one is it a bubble?
Is it a
So
bubble?
this is the opposite of are you buying a dip? I'm going to name a stock that seems to have currently high value in the market that you're going to tell me whether you think it's going to go down, basically, like if you think something is a fad, or whether you think it's going to continue going upward for the long term. So, Moki,
So
is multi-turning on the same night a bubble?
I think that will go down. Yeah, I think people are doing it a lot. I think some people still do it, but I don't know. I've seen posts recently about people just being like, yeah, this shouldn't be acceptable. And I think that's like the common opinion that people have had for a while. But I've seen like, I don't remember who it was, but I think I saw someone like specifically say like, you're not allowed to do this. And if you're in another tournament, we'll DQ you. And I think I wouldn't be shocked if like, especially like, because that only happens during weeklies and stuff. I wouldn't really be shocked if people were like, yeah, we're just going to do this. Because like, it just holds it up. It wastes people's times, and it's annoying. Even if it's fun to watch for the viewers of that person's stream, it's just as everyone else, is fucking annoyed.
Wheat, multi-turning, is it a bubble?
I've got two things that I want to say here really quickly before I answer. I think you've gone moky, wheat, blur like 3 times in a row. I don't think that's supposed to happen. And also, you asked this question last Edwin Budding Stock Exchange. You asked me and Ipengu, and I'll say what I said before. No, wait.
It's not the same question. It's slightly different, but
I think
similar
it's the
topic.
same exact thing.
It's not the
Yes,
same.
yes,
I
it
asked
is.
about Mech's attendance specifically.
Okay.
This is
Yes,
I'm
it
talking
is a
about
bubble because of people like Mac, because people have gotten quote unquote popular. Like, it's been known that they're multi-tournament. We know that Mac does it. We know that NoFlexus does it. And if you look at East Coast Fridays, if you go to their Smash GG page, they literally have a rule that says you'll be DQ'd if you do multi-tournament. And you have TOs like Sidward, who I bet will do the same thing. You've got people who are willing to run online events who are of this mindset. And it's I will say this one thing about tournaments rules and TOing is that TOs love to copy paste rule sets, and I definitely think that there will be a future very soon where if you're making an online tournament, it's going to be right in the rule set, right where it says like wobbling is not allowed, it'll say multi-tournament is not allowed. So while I think that this was a question that I answered 2 weeks ago, that would be my answer.
It was not. You answered a slightly different, but you gave a good answer. The question is if
I've
Blur or
given a
Moki
great
could
answer.
give you. All right, Blur, tell me, multi-turning on the same night.
I almost want to give a shit answer because I don't want to win this stupid game that Edwin's playing. Giving me 1 point so far. I don't give a fuck about your opinion of me, Edwin. What do you think this is?
It's my stock exchange, Blur. You got to give an answer.
I don't give. I don't. Now I'm trying to go for the worst answer possible at this point. You know, yeah, bro. Like, I feel like if it continues to be a problem, people are gonna ban it. Like, it's like obvious. I think double limb formats for online events are all already kind of shaky. I still think the ladder format's the best one we got, but like obviously there's a finals with the bracket. So yeah, man, don't hold up matches. Like, that's whack.
All right, I'm giving this one to Wheat. So
all right,
I think we got a tie for first.
Sweet.
I think I won that point last time too.
Wheat, is the Nintendo circuit a bubble?
Man, I don't know. And so this is something that was announced in November of 2021, and we have not really heard from it, right? And I truly don't know what to say, because I don't really know a ton, and I don't know how much other people here know, right? But one thing that is a little bit damning, we were in the Melee Stats podcast Discord, and we were talking about Midwest majors, and I said, you know what, Combo Breaker, we might not think of it as such. Combo Breaker is something that Nintendo might look for. Combo Breaker is a huge event in almost every other circuit, right? If you look at like the Mortal Kombat circuit or the Street Fighter circuit, Dragon Ball Fighters, whatever has a circuit has Combo Breaker as like a huge event. Obviously, Melee's not been huge at Combo Breaker, but it could be something that Nintendo, knowing that type of stuff, would look out for. We saw the Combo Breaker announcement; it didn't have Melee. So I would say, yeah, I think that this will come around, right? Like, I think that the circuit will happen. But with the information that I'm given right now and the inferences that I can make, sure, I'll say it's a bubble. I'll be a little fun, a little cheeky.
Blur, tell me, Nintendo circuit, is it a bubble?
It depends. I guess I think absolutely sell if we're going off what people's like the videos that were put out when it was announced. I would have sold that day of. I would have been selling the day people were putting all these fucking hype videos out. Hbox was screaming to a mic. People were crying and hugging their children because there was a licensing deal. Like, bro, Genesis got partnered before too. How would that work out? Like it's not exactly. This is not new territory. Not the way I'm looking at it. I wasn't really hugging and crying at the time. I sold back then. I'm selling now. But it might happen. We haven't gotten like much information about it. I am still extraordinarily skeptical about it, and I will continue to be, because that's, I think, the logical place to be if you're a Smash fan. You can read a great blog post by me from back then. Everything I said then holds true. They need to be transparent about this if they're going to do it. They haven't been. Maybe they will be going forward, but yeah, at the moment, I've already sold my stock. I sold it months ago. And they kind of need to convince me to have me buy it back.
And Moki?
I kind of agree with that for the most part as well, which I'm not going to whatever the term is, I don't have faith in it, I guess. I am skeptical. I was skeptical as soon as it came out. And like, especially in the last couple months, like Nintendo's done some kind of like sketchy stuff, like I Gilva Sunner or Silva Gunner or whatever. Like they're still doing like a bunch of their like Nintendo antics, and I don't know. I have faith in Panda. I truly do. But I have like negative faith in Nintendo. Like they like to just go out of their way and like stomp on everything that people like. So like I wouldn't be shocked. And like I know that in the announcement they like, it says how there's like a monetary prize, but it also doesn't say how much. Like they could like a monetary prize could be like $5. Like it could like like I don't know. I don't really have too much faith in it as like I guess a pessimist, a skeptic of Nintendo. I am yeah.
All right. I'm going to give this one to Blur, which even should make the game a little bit closer.
I'm so gracious for your fucking point.
That's the only
Take the point back. Take the point back. I don't want the point.
You
Give it a
should be.
monkey.
No, you gotta take the point.
No, I don't want this fucking point.
All right. Well, you get to answer the next question, the last one of the Is It a Bubble segment.
You're allowed to answer.
Blur, are Peach players beating Fox players a bubble or not?
That's actually a hard question. I'm gonna say it's not a bubble, because I think I think Polish is here to stay. First of all, I think I think their approach to Peach is very different, very platform based. Like that's the thing that surprises me every time I see Polish play the game. Just on platforms like all fucking day. And Armada never did any of that stuff. It's like literally like I don't know why no one talks about it, but like Polish is just on side plat literally all game. Like what? This is like he's like HBox.
They're like HBox.
They're like HBox. I'm fucking up. But yeah,
looks like you're not getting this point.
I'm not getting this point.
So you think?
But
so
yeah,
you
but
think
you
that
get the idea.
Yeah, that it's not a bubble. This is sustainable.
No, I think it's sustainable. I think Kazu's mad good. I think that who else? Freaking Lod's mad good, and yeah. So I think it's here to stay.
Moki, Peach players beating Fox players. As the
I think
Fox player, is this a bubble or no?
I think the Peach players are always going to be beating Fox players, at least. Like not always. I'm not saying that the character wins, but like Fox players like to run their head into shit, and that's how you lose against Peach. And I think if you're playing off as a Fox or something, you're just gonna fucking run your head in and get hit and lose. And I think a lot of Foxes are notoriously pretty bad. Myself, I am not good at it, and I know like a lot of people struggle against Peach. Peach is always gonna at least get some wins. I don't think it's gonna like change. Even if people learn them, I don't know. I especially with like I think like Polish is making advancements on the character, and all the Peaches honestly play kind of different. Like watching Triff compared to Polish compared to Kazu, they do a bunch of different shit. And if there's enough options for a character to do different stuff and to be distinct in their play, then like there's options that people have to be prepared for, and it's kind of hard to be prepared for all of that, especially in a character where if you default running in a lot of the time, then like you might lose.
All right, Wheat, tell me what you think.
Edwin, I will say we've had the best non-Armada year for Peaches since Court and Sastiver, right? I think we can agree that even looking at the years when Armada was around, if you took Armada out of the equation, I don't think Peach has ever done better than characters currently doing right now. Polish, we all agree, is a top 10 player. Triff, just outside that. Lod, amazing. Keizu, really good as well. But I'm not gonna buy the dip. Or wait, it's a bubble. It is a bubble. Whatever question it is a bubble. Because I think these players are all really good, and as they become really good, you see a lot of players get kind of thrown off by the matchup because it's something that without Armada you don't have to really be perfect in. But as these players get better, and as we are able to see more international travel and just more tournaments where we're able to see these players more, they become more of a threat later in bracket. I think that Peach becomes a matchup where you really don't have to learn it to be like that successful currently. I think it'll be a matchup where if you want to see continued success, I think that's going to be right in the arsenal. And we've seen really good Peach players or really good Fox players just like be really, really good versus Peach. I will. Tools work really great online. I think she's a great character offline as well. But as we get back into the offline worlds, to play the Peach matchup perfectly, like we saw like Silent Wolf or Crush do, I think that a little bit more of as we get back to offline.
An excellent answer. I got to give it to you for this one, Wheat.
I know that you hate Peach players. I don't know if you hate Peach or if you hate Peach players, but I know you hate one of them.
No, I don't.
You hate them a lot.
No, I don't mind Peach. Peach is cool.
Oh, but Peach players.
All right. And for the final segment, Market Watch. So this is kind of just like a general grab bag of any question I have. Moky, I want to start off with you for this one. So, what is the final set count of a 1st to 5, hypothetically, between the Crimson Blur and Chillin' Samus?
God, I don't know. I have no idea. Honestly, Blur, I'll be honest, I haven't seen you play that much. You know what? Because I'm in a call with one of them and not the other, I think it's 5-0. 5-0 Blur.
Is that it?
Wrap it up, bro. Like, I don't think there's much more else to say.
All right, and Wheat, tell me what do you think the set count is?
You know what? We were lucky enough to see both of these players help out when we were throwing Genesis. We obviously saw Blur do really well versus Slum. Went on to block one of the production managers from Genesis on Twitter. But yeah, like Blur obviously looks really good. Is this the prime Blur we've all been hearing about? Who knows? He told me how many games he wants to play on Slippy for the whole year. It's insane. So obviously this guy's putting in the work. And he's obviously putting in the work more than Chillin is. So I have to say Chillin 5-1. I think Blur's putting in a lot of work.
What a douchebag. I hate this guy.
Blur,
I hate this guy.
You got one vote of 5-0 in your favor. You got a 5-1 for Chillin. Where are you putting it, Blur? Yourself?
First of all, I think Chillin's Samus is currently better than its Fox, in my understanding, which is hilarious. So this is basically Chillin's main at this point, according to him. I mean, you're talking about one of the greatest players of all time. There's no way. I mean, look, what have I done, right? Like, we're talking about Chillin dude, right? Like, he's done so much in terms of the game. Well, I'm a humble young Blur. Like, no way would I 5-0 him. But I would probably 5-1 him. So I'm going to give myself a 5-1.
All right. You all gave very good answers. Obviously, the only way that this game would not end in a Wheat victory is if Moky won this point. And unfortunately, I got to say, I think that this point has got to go to Wheat. I do think that Chillin' Samus would win 5-1. And in fact, the only possible point of disagreement is that I think that Chill and Samus might actually win 8-1 or 7-1 because I think it would be so fast that they would play 3 more games to fill in the production stream, similar to the cheat versus Chill and Samus.
So here's the thing. You guys may have these scathing remarks, right? But here's what I have. I don't I see Wheat taking great enjoyment from winning this stupid little point thing that Edwin is giving him. And
He
it
did
makes me
win.
realize that I'm more self-assured and I have the self-confidence that he'll never have. He just was like, oh, I got validated by winning this thing. This is the only thing you'll ever win,
Yeah.
Wheat. Let me tell you something. This is the only thing you'll ever win. I'm winning sets on stream, Wheat. What are you doing?
I will
are.
say, me and
Get outta here.
Wheat, we've known each other for a long time. We've
I hate
argued
it.
quite a bit. We have fierce disagreements. But I think from the beginning of the universe to
I'm mad.
the end, through several galaxies, through, time and whatnot, somehow Wheat always knows how to really get at my heart
Is this how you guys treat your guests?
and
Is this what I
answer
was getting
correctly.
at?
So, Wheat, you get your minute of fame to talk about whatever you want.
Yeah, it's funny that we do this, and then we also have a new segment at the end. Not even new. We've had a segment that we've had for a while, where you talk about what else anything. I'll use my minute. I'll say, let's do it, man. Let's make this Blur versus Chillin' thing happen, right? Genesis probably. What's happened to Genesis Friday night, right? Sheridan, where's the schedule in a nice fat 45 minutes. We'll get both of them up there. Commentated by Blur. Who do you want to commentate?
I mean, at this point, probably man.
Yeah. Put Wheat on there, dude.
I went 5-0.
Dude, I think one really funny implication of this question, by the way, Wheat. So you said your final answer is 5-1. Does that answer change? It's the Crimson Blur versus Hugs.
Yeah, I think that's 5-2 Hugs.
Blur, what do you think?
I don't know if I could beat Hugo. I mean, I don't know how good he is right now, but that seems much
Dude,
harder.
Well,
Doesn't it? That seems freaking hard.
Dude, if I can say so,
We'll never know.
After watching
there's an
Chillin'
easy way of
Samus-
figuring out who's better. Chillin'
I thought
versus
Chill and
Hugo.
Samus was low key disgusting good. Like, it's not a bad thing if you lose to Chill and Samus. Like, it's now weirdly like
I
a real
mean,
thing.
we're literally talking about me versus like top 30 players all time. So like, I don't think either are bad losses. Like, I wouldn't be that stressed. But yeah.
Chillin' Samus, man, that's a funny thing. I thought that was
Yeah, it
just
went
a
from, like,
Summit
meme
VIP
to, like-
guy. Now it's an actual threat. I don't know. We saw 7-1 the cheat. Is everyone who 7-1's the cheat now a top 30 player? Who knows? Being
The
very
cheat's pretty
mean today.
good. He's solid.
I think Mikey is very good. Let's wow, that stock exchange those take longer than I thought. We're let's get into this thing. We got another thing going on. If you've been following Melee, you've probably seen some announcements. I think the announcement that obviously is most recent and most pertinent is the one of FlyQuest. FlyQuest is now, they're sponsoring TMT. I believe it's been confirmed to be a weekly thing. So they're putting in, upwards of $50,000 into Melee for the year, if that's the case. They're going to put $1,000 into each TMT. So each Tuesday, there's going to be $1,000 weekly. We've seen something like that from HBox, which is a $2,000 weekly, not for the game that he's been number one in for 3 years, but for Ultimate. But Melee has not had something like that. So we've got that. And also, maybe have been a little desensitized to it, but of course we've got Golden Guardians who are putting, I think, $100,000 into a grassroots fund, which I know people like Kevin Deere benefited from that, able to run events without being at loss, or at maybe not as much loss. And I think they also did something with like an MBVA event. We've seen this kind of trickle of sponsors back in, sponsors and teams of big organizations, in a way where, a couple of years ago, we might not have thought this to be the case. 2016 or so, I think, was kind of the boom of having lots of large organizations come into Melee. And then we kind of saw that it wasn't worth the cost for a lot of these people. Sponsoring a player, signing a player to a year-long contract was not really worth it to a lot of the big organizations. But I think what's happening now is they're finding out that if you pour $50,000 into any other big game, it's like a drop in an ocean. And if you pour $50,000 in Melee, it's a pretty big deal. So we're in this new like weird sponsor renaissance. And I guess the question is like, what is the current landscape of sponsors and big organizations in Melee in 2022 and beyond? Blur, I feel like this is a perfect question for you. I could see you really going off on this on a commentator's curse. So I definitely want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think the future's bright. Because in a world where everything is overvalued, and Melee's sitting here asking for fucking pennies, we're gonna do all right. And I think I made a tweet about this, but dollar for dollar, pound for pound, don't let anyone deter you from this because it's just facts if you know the industry. Smash and Melee too, just both games, is by far the best dollar for dollar investment an esports team can make. Like there's your dollar will go much farther in Smash than any other game. And I could break it down game by game for many reasons why that's true. But the core of it is it's just so much cheaper to have a noticeable impact, and grow your brand. And the truth is, so like, the reason for that is because most esports investments are garbage, right? And actually almost all of them are. These are not particularly great businesses. They become better businesses because they end up turning into what's effectively multi-channel networks by getting gaming creators to sign up to their program, kind of like as talent agencies, which is like a kind of a separate business that they're shoehorning into their esports and sort of stuff. But they're losing money left and right on like these other big esports, with the hope of the future that esports will be as big as sports in 10, 20 years, right? Well, that hope comes from trying to grow an audience over an extended period of time. And you can do that here. You can do that in Melee, easily for like no money. Like you can get gamers to become loyal to you through this. And if I was running a team, it'd be one of the easiest things to do. Now, you don't need that many players to make an impact. So I think like they should be running tournaments. They should be doing stuff like this. Just have a small little baby Melee cash fund of like 100 to 200K. Like every team should have that. Like per year, we're going to spend that much on Melee. We're going to spend some on Ultimate, probably spend some on the FGC games. And you're going to get people who are loyal to you, right? Melee fans, like, know and care about Golden Guardians. Like, most League fans don't. They still like TSM, right? They don't give a goddamn about Golden Guardians. But Melee fans were like, Golden Guardians, they're the homies, right? And if that's their end goal is to grow their brand in gaming, this actually does something. Whereas most of their other investments won't. Is the truth. And so, yeah, no, absolutely. And that's the pitch I make to the teams whenever I talk to them. I talked to FlyQuest yesterday about this TMT thing, and like pretty much that they're on the same that the teams are on the same page. It's like it's insane to not spend like what's basically 1/10, 1/20th of an LCS player's salary on this little initiative or these sort of initiatives that give you like way more bang for your buck. It's an easy, obvious win.
Blur, if I want to ask you something about that because you mentioned I think I understand like the pound for pound like investment part of it in terms of growing your brand and becoming more recognizable within the space. I guess what I've always been curious about is like how do they convert that like your brand metrics like okay. for something like Golden Guardians, for example, like their YouTube channel. I assume like let's say FlyQuest has something like that. How would you convert that into dollar amounts for the value for an organization?
Okay, so the orgs are always looking for legitimacy, right? And the reason they need legitimacy is because they want content creators to sign for them and they want investors to invest in them, right? That's why. So let's look at Panda Global, who grew through Smash and Smash alone effectively, right? And then they later branched to FGC. They signed Smash players at bargain prices to grow their brand, right? They then sign in other games, right? This is a great strategy because if you're going to sign for bang for the buck, again, Smash is the best way to do it. And then what you can do with that is that now they'll have investors come up to them and be like, hey, we want to invest in esports as a generality, we're noticing that your name is popping up. You're now a larger Twitter account. You're a name that gamers talk about. Now, content creators, again, this is the part of the business that actually makes money, right? Now, content creators, when they Google you, will be like, oh, they're the team that's cool, that people follow and people like, right? I'm okay with being a part of this team and giving up my sponsorship rights, giving up my ad rights, giving up all these other benefits, and they can then use that to flip that into things like Twitch deals and other metrics of like of sales that try to even out their balance sheet, right? Again, not the best businesses, but that's the way to do it. So they literally need legitimacy in order to operate, and Smash is like the easiest way to get legitimacy, right? I got legitimacy, and I'm a bum. Right? Like, like what the fuck? I got legitimacy at like the age of like 14, running tournaments out of my parents' basement. Like, seriously, that was like some of the first tournaments I ran. Like, that's how people started to know who I was, right? Like, these guys can do it too. It's not that hard. Getting your name to be known in Smash is one of the easiest things you could do. It's more like if you're talking about like the easy. It's also, by the way, one of the best bang for your buck in terms of like if you want to build an influencer lifestyle, you can get known in Smash. It's not that hard, right? Whereas most other avenues, if you want to like become a fitness influencer, that's just fucking hard. No one's gonna know who you are. How are you gonna get known? No one's gonna like it's gonna be difficult. But like you fill out a commentary application, maybe you'll get a slot at Genesis. Like for fuck's sake, right? And you'll be on a stream with 100K viewers, 200K viewers. Like that's kind of bonkers, right? And that's generally true with Smash in general. Getting a slide on Genesis, cheap as shit. Like they'll give for a few $100. Like on a good year, if I'm like in Sheridan Bobak's year, maybe they'll sell it to you for 1,000, right? But the point is that like that's crazy. this is a stream with hundreds of thousands of viewers, but we'll give it up for that, right? Like, and so in a market where everything else is overvalued, and we're the one group which is like, really below market, we're going to do well, and we are going to do well going forward. So for sure.
There's an interesting dynamic between the players, or not just the players, the fans and the community in general, and the sponsors who come into this. I have seen people say that like, oh yeah, I was so tired, I don't really drink energy drinks, I just rolled into the 7-Eleven and I didn't know what to get because I don't drink them, but Red Bull just ran Gods and Gatekeepers, so I'll get a Red Bull, right? Like we're so easily bought by anyone who's like nice enough to give us money, because I don't know, call it a Nintendo thing, right? Maybe we're not used to having any people who like big corporations who care about us, even though we've had a lot of events sponsored by big corporations. But anytime like someone who's bigger than us cares, like they're like one of us, right? It's like, damn, you care about Melee, I care about Melee, like we're homies now. I'll give you an example that is pertinent to someone in here. A lot of people didn't know who people know Critical. A lot of people started to really like Critical after he picked up some people like Moky or Cola, like people who are really well liked. And there's, yeah, you're right. It's so easy to buy legitimacy. And Edwin, I think that Blur, I think he answered your question in that like you buy legitimacy and then stuff comes easy after that. I think if Tafo were to say this, he'd say it's like a Costco hot dog. It's a loss leader. I've seen him say that a lot. I don't know if that's just because he loves Costco hot dogs, but I've seen him use this like Costco hot dog metaphor a ton. But I guess a question that I have, and I don't know who would be most ready to answer this, but like, is Melee's lack of unified tournament landscape, probably it's a good thing for this, right? If you are dumping, let's take the number $50,000 because that's what, or $50,000 because that's about what FlyQuest seems to be putting in this year. If you're FlyQuest and you dump $50,000 into Overwatch, what happens? You get a logo, maybe like a tiny logo on one slide of a stream at some point. Like I don't even know what $50,000 would buy you in a bigger game like that. And yet you put in $50,000 and suddenly like everyone's like, damn, I love FlyQuest now. That's like my favorite team. And if a player watches another game they're in, then suddenly that's like the easiest entryway. It's like, wow, I don't know anything about these teams, but I'm a FlyQuest fan, right? I think a lot of people were C9 fans because they signed Mango. It's just a dynamic where I think Melee players are, because of the passion, are kind of very easily bought. And I think that that's not something that every organization has found out yet. I don't know, or maybe they know about it and just don't care. But like the ease as to which Melee players could like be truly bought out is very low. We're very cheap dates, and I don't see why there would be an end to this anytime soon.
There's literally only one reason, and it's that they'll ever tell you. And it's a very simple reason that they're just straight wrong about. But like it fits their profiles, which they'll say, oh, we don't want to make small bets. We're trying to make $1 billion business. Like this is like, yeah, they'll agree. Yeah, this is probably one of the best ways we can use our money. But we're how big is the audience? We don't see a future in Melee because of the lack of unification. They're like, it's just going to stay the same ad infinitum, right? There doesn't seem to be hope for the 5-10 year span that they see, at least, right? Maybe we disagree with Slippy getting better and all these other things popping up. And they're like, we want to invest into growing games, like games that are like Valorant or whatever, that are like skyrocketing, and they're able to get a large audience plays for that would be like something they would say, like, we don't, maybe the money is low, but we don't want to spend like our time and energy and our tweets and our like our staff time on our headspace. Like that would be their kind of argument.
Operational costs. Yeah.
Basically, we just don't want to make it like a consideration for that reason. They're so wrong still, because the reason they're incredibly wrong is because it's actually not and hasn't been a small play, right? Like, you look at the games then you question like the games they are investing into, and you compare them to Genesis viewership. You're like, bro, the fuck are you talking about? Like that final peaked at 40K. Genesis peaked at 250. Like who's the small dog here? Like, no, this is just it's just misleading because the numbers are so low. But the actual value is still actually pretty fucking good, and the numbers have been pretty solid. It is not a coincidence that Ludwig became the biggest streamer on Twitch from Smash, right? There's an audience that you can use as a jumping off point here, and there has always been one. And it's not Aatrox doing the same thing, right? Like, yeah. He's also becoming one of the biggest. It's like this has always been a play for us.
So moky, sorry, Wheat, go on.
Oh, I was gonna throw to moky, but before I said, yeah, when we've seen a lot of commentators start in Melee, and like Vicky Kitty is doing pretty well for herself, and she's in a bunch of different games. So I think she's like doing like official Nintendo stuff. Obviously, we've seen like Vish has definitely done official Nintendo stuff. I've definitely seen him do stuff like that. Yeah, it's a pretty easy way to like belay your career into bigger success, because it's just like the lore and the infrastructure that exists in Melee is so deep, and in Smash in general, right? You look at bigger games and you like look to see a tournament result from 2017, and it's just like a red link on their Wikipedia page. I know all the Wikipedia editors, basically. They would never let anything like that happen for Melee or maybe Ultimate. I don't know the Ultimate Wikipedia people. But yeah, there's just like an infrastructure that doesn't exist in a lot of other games, as far as as deep as it does in Melee. Moky, you obviously you're moist Moky.
Yeah.
You are kind of it's a little bit of a burgeoning trend, right? Well, obviously we've seen Zane was sponsored by Ludwig at Genesis 7, but we've been seeing this idea of, instead of like a big team, instead of an organization, we've been just seeing kind of like people saying, you know what, I've got enough money, I can throw it around, I can throw it into this. Ludwig obviously with LACS, and then Critical with, I think, like 4 or 5 people on Moist. What is your experience as a team member of like a individual and not a big organization?
Oh, it's dope. I love it. It's like it's just very like, it's very chill, but like it's like you know what I mean? It's like very chill, but since it's not like an organization that's trying to be like, super like organization-y, I guess, like I don't know the proper word, but you know what I mean? It's like it's very chill and professional, and it's like done really well, but it's also just like, like we're called Moist. Like, it's like like it's like a very like it's a very like, I guess, like passion-y kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
It's like a lot of care, and it's very hands-on, and just, I don't know, I enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Critical during early parts of the pandemic was putting on some pretty big Ultimate events.
Yeah.
Like, definitely a passion project there, but I don't know, like, it seems to work out good.
Yeah.
And maybe maybe individual streamers are maybe not getting the money back in the way that big organizations are, but like I think that yeah, I mean, if it's like pretty easy for them to do it, it's like I've heard of the how the hot dog's made at like Mogul Moves, how the sausage is made at Mogul Moves, and I think that like the idea of if it's cool, just do it is something that exists in Melee and does like also exist in these big streamers, right? So I think that
Yeah.
like if the streamers are doing, if it's cool, do it. That's perfect for Melee. And if the big organizations are saying like we can get these people for pennies on the dollar, get interactions, like people. I bet the tweet that you had got like 2K likes, right? It definitely got over 1,000 likes when you said you got picked up by Moist.
Oh yeah, it has like 7K or something.
Yeah,
It's like
like
even my what's it called? Even my like if I do well at a tournament and he tweets out a graphics, that'll be like 10 to like I've seen it like 30K likes on some, and it's just like Jesus, like that's
yeah,
fucking crazy. Like
like
that's for
imagine,
Melee, that's insane.
yeah, imagine that happening for top 14 player of I don't know. I guess you are very good, so that's a bad example. But I don't, like the care that's put into this and the interactions that come out of it. Yeah, I mean it's just like incredible. Edwin, what do you think about all of this? Oh,
You
Edwin,
muted yourself,
you're
brother.
muted.
You
Muted.
muted yourself, brother.
Oh, sorry about that. No, I was gonna say that I had seen like Blur express like optimism about the scene and how it being a good pound for pound investment. And like one of the reasons that Blur brought up that I think he reasoned pretty well was the idea of like it's very easy to get brand loyalty from Melee players, right? And I think the kind of funny thing of that is like I think I just need to hear that because it's like for someone like me, and I think it's fair to say like even Wheat and like all of us to no, like I think it's fair for all of us at this point. Like we've been around for a while, right? Like we've seen sponsors come and go from the scene. It's very difficult. I can't speak for the rest of you, but I can say for me, and I know others like me, it's very difficult not to feel jaded about this stuff sometimes. Like you see a sponsor enter the scene, like they want to throw money at it or something, and like you see community figures like want to support this because they think it'll have some payoff, and then 3 years later, like that tournament series is dead, or like that sponsor is just like is not part of the scene anymore or whatever. So like for me, it's always difficult for me to kind of see genuinely good things and good like promising high potential developments for the scene. Anything less than like with extreme caution or like hesitation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I just needed to hear that like I
Yeah,
think I just need to hear that like Melee's not a waste of time and that
and
like
and
it
the
actually does
reason
provide.
so the reason for that is number one, many of their approaches are short term because they're like, hey, we just want to get some audience loyalty, boom, boom, and we're there, and that's great. But if I was them, for example, I'd be like, yo, how much does it cost to buy Big House, right? If you're one of them, like that's all you could maybe you could do that, and now you have a staple that you can run for a decade. They're talking about, hey, I want to be a name in esports for decades to come and be a brand that exists for decades to come. Run a fucking major and do it every single year, right? Like do something like that. Like go and actually do the things that would be more like bricklaying for the scene, and then I think they would see long-term gain because then the scene would grow with them and it would actually do something. So a lot of times, like for example, when they're like, oh, we see no definite future for the scene. I'm like, bro, like you guys have the resources to help make that
Mm-hmm.
happen. The audience is
Got
literally
it.
right there, right? And it's a bunch of amateurs running shit. You guys can help make that better. And I think that's hopefully what Panda was trying to do. Obviously they fell in love too much with Nintendo, in my opinion, but or they
God,
thought that,
you're
or they
not
thought
letting
that.
this go, are you?
Look,
Well,
they
I
thought
I think it's
they
perfect
thought
for this
No,
conversation.
I think it is too. It's just funny because this is like the third time he's
because
brought.
because here's the thing, it's what they would say is like, oh, Nintendo would stop us, right?
Mm-hmm.
I personally believe in Smash World Tour shows they wouldn't, right? Like Smash World Tour did run for a year, and it's possible they wouldn't. You can try it, but not just that, but like you could do it the way Red Bull did, right? Red Bull ran Mango's birthday bash Adrenaline, like that was a whole thing
Mm-hmm.
where it was on Mango's stream, and they were kind of not fully, you know, it wasn't fully on their shit, and we were able to run without having to worry about Nintendo like that. Like, there's a lot of ways to do it and be smart about it, because all you really care about is the people and the community, right? You can get to them and Nintendo can't stop you, right? There's many ways to getting to them with Nintendo not being able to stop you. And it doesn't have to be like, oh, we have to build specifically the Overwatch League, right? We don't need an Overwatch League. That's not specifically what you need to build, right? You can build things that are, you know, smart and hit the audience, that are more long-term investments and that help the scene grow long-term. And then you get that long-term growth that we're hoping for, right? Like, you could probably buy fucking Slippy. You know, you could probably just talk to Jazz, be like, yo, we'll employ you for the next, I don't know, 10 years, give you $300K and whatever resources you need. And the Slippy launcher app, yeah, has the FlyQuest logo on it forever. It's called FlyQuest now, right? You could probably do that. Like, hello? One of the biggest online games you could probably just fucking get, maybe? I don't know. Like, I don't know. I just feel like these are the sort of things I'm like, you can get the audience. It's right there. And you can make it bigger. You can make the audience bigger. There's plenty of ways of doing it. These guys, though, they got rocks for skulls, so I got to like tell them of these things, or make them think like that. But in general, it's mostly a matter of incompetence. The actual dollar for dollar deals that are there are like insane in terms of Melee. Like, there's literally we're an actual major outlier in terms of the internet ad space. Like, it's not close. Our valuation is like rock low for what our audience has been, and that's been true for a long time.
Well, do you think that the hesitation is like specifically because of like what you see as like a overstated fear of like how Nintendo would respond, or do you think it's because people just don't believe in the community long term? Like as far as sponsors, like I'm not quite sure what.
I think it's mostly Nintendo. Yeah. I think they're worried about it, but then like it's just like, here's the thing, right? And you got to learn how to be an entrepreneur. And if Uber as an idea, if you had told me beforehand there is an app which would call a random, which would basically bring a random person with a random car to you, which aren't really screened, and people would use that, and that would be legal. Before Uber came around, I would have been like, no fucking way. That's just illegal. You need a taxi license. You need to be licensed in the state. Like, that's just not, your company idea is trash because it's not going to be legal. Like, people aren't going to go into strangers' cars. Like, that's fucking crazy. And then they did it. And then people sometimes sued them, and sometimes people died, and it didn't matter, right? Because they made more money than for it to matter. You know what I mean? And then you look at DMCA law, it's not that complicated, right? What are they allowed to do? What are they actually allowed to do? They can take down streams with the content that displays their IP, and they can C&D things that are public performances. That is the extent of their power, right? That's it. Doesn't mean you can't buy Slippy. Doesn't mean you can't have a tournament series that's branded after you. Doesn't mean you can't sign a player. There's like thousands of things you can still do with those limitations. Like, lots of things. And so I think they just like are literally not being entrepreneurial. Like, bro, you can go and do the thing that seems like there's a barrier to it, and act because you actually know and make a risk evaluation, because that's what being a business person is. It's making some bold, risky plays. And here you have an audience that's like waiting to be captured, that you're just not taking for no fucking reason, and you're spending millions of dollars on fucking Hooney and whoever the fuck. Like, I don't know, like these random LCS players. You kidding me? You think that guy's adding audience to you? I don't know. I don't think so. Not that much. So, like, I don't know. It seems pretty obvious to me, but again, you know, it's you got to kind of walk them through it.
You're nothing if not a bold man. The idea of, so what? You might get cease and desisted. Who cares?
Yeah, like
No, seriously though. No, seriously though. Actually though, like, what happens? You don't run the tournament. The play didn't work out. Move on. It's you're putting very little money relative to your total cash pile.
Yeah, I guess the money that these guys have, like, it's relative.
You swung, right. And it whatever. But also, like, you can only get C&D for, again, public performance, and you get DMCA for a stream displaying the game. And they, you know, we already know they probably won't do it for certain things. Now that you can test the waters and see what will work and what won't, right? Red Bull pretty much put on Mango's birthday bash, and it happened. There was also a Gods and Geek. There's been tons of big companies coming in, and it's been kind of okay.
We
Maybe
had a
that wouldn't
4
happen long
loco
term, but
online tournament.
that happened, right? Beast Coast just ran some shit. You could just run some shit, brother, right? CS:GO is an esport that pretty much, a Counter-Strike as an esport pretty much just happened, right? With under Valve's nose, it just kind of happened. That can happen too. Like these guys are being like such subservient to the publishers that they're letting the publishers own the industry when they don't really need to, like not completely at least.
All right, Moki, I want to ask you something really quickly, because
So-
you've been in the scene since like 2015 or so, right?
Yeah, I started playing mid 2014 when I was like
Okay.
fucking 14.
So you remember 2014 was like the first, like, or not the first, but like a big renaissance year or so for
Yeah.
Melee, right?
Yeah.
So I want to ask you something, since you were a player back then and now you do this like as your career. Let's fast forward ahead like a couple months to like April 2023. Let's say I don't know your travel situation, but let's say you're able to go to Genesis.
Yeah.
And like
yeah.
let's say that the pandemic, like we start seeing LAN events of that caliber come back and they draw everyone. Do you think that, like, as a player, do you think this is like the best time for you to have Melee as a profession, or do you think there was a time or do you think it's not there yet in terms of like the scene scaling upward?
I could see it going up, especially with like I could see there being a bit of a. Is that what you're asking? Like, is it gonna? Like,
Yeah, like do you think this is the best time to like take Melee as a profession?
I think it's the best time so far. I don't know in the future. It's hard to predict.
Yeah,
I
like
think
so far compared.
especially the thing is right now, which I wanted to add on to, because obviously Blur knows more about like the like that kind of side of stuff, because honestly like the like the tournament running side, but add on to the question of like will big orgs get in. I think right now we're in a boom of like Melee streaming's huge compared to what it was. Like it's not like obviously like as big as like Fortnite or something, but like it's bigger than it ever has been. Like, you know, my stream's grown a bunch in the last year. Like, you know, I barely got partner a year ago. Now I'm getting like 200 to 300 viewers on stuff, and the same is said for a lot of people. Like a lot of individual player streams are growing a lot, because I think the players are understanding that you kind of have to do that stuff a bit, but that is good for organizations, right? And then organizations see that people are pulling numbers. They're like, okay, this person is popular within the scene, albeit like, you know, a bit less than other games, but they cost less than other games, like Blair was saying. And you know, you can make an event like Mango's birthday bash based on the person's personality, and like it just, I don't know, there's a lot of stuff you can do in terms of that. And I think being a player in this time where streaming and all that stuff is bigger and you can make money off of doing it, it's, I don't know, I think it's the best time so far to make a living off of Smash. Who's to say what happens in the future? But yeah.
Are we seeing Moki on Metafy? Has Mutaking gotten in your DMs yet?
Yeah, a couple times. Yeah, I'm
I
not
was
a
gonna say I'd be
guy.
shocked if he hasn't.
Yeah.
$1 million like
He's,
community
he's
fund.
asking PTAS if PTAS wants to join Metafy. What's he gonna do?
There are legitimate every time you think, oh man, I don't know if teams are going to come in. Remember that some of these motherfuckers spent $30+ million on an Overwatch League spot, and then multi-million dollars later on operational costs. And I can tell you with true honesty that if they just spent $100K on Melee, it would have been a better return. Like pure, you know, literally, we would have done more with 100K than they did with 30+ mil. So we're like also being compared against pretty bad bets, because a lot of esports bets are really bad. And so it's not really that hard for us to shine in that kind of market.
I also don't think we're inundated with teams at this point where, you know, maybe if we had a ton of big organizations in it, maybe it wouldn't be worth it, right? But you control so much, like you get such a big piece of the pie right now if you get in. One thing I just want to add on, I think we've all agreed on this, but I just want to like bump this. I think players getting sponsored is great. It's obviously something that seems a little safer, but I agree with Blur and Moki. You kind of mentioned the same thing. I want to see tournaments. That's what I want to see, because I know people are scared because it's hard to, you know, feel safe about throwing a tournament, but it's easier to sponsor a player. These players got to go to something. And I'm going to mention a brand. They've already had an established brand, but we're talking about brands that are already established on other games. how quickly did Beyond the Summit go from this thing that no one's ever heard of? I never heard of them when they first popped up. I'm not sure if a lot of Melee players did. Obviously, if they're into MOBAs, they would. How quickly did it go from something that people didn't hear of to one of the best brands in Smash? If you run a summit, that's one of the biggest events of the year. People want to win a summit
Absolutely.
as almost as much as they want to win like a Genesis, right? It's obviously not the same. It's not open bracket, but that's the closest that any event like that has gotten to something that like a grassroots thing that we've built. If you look at main stage 1 wasn't that huge in terms of entrant numbers, but it was stacked. Main stage 2020 2021 was a lot bigger in terms of entrants, and I have no reason to believe that main stage 2022, if it were to happen, would regress unless COVID gets really bad, right? People trust that brand, and it's because they just came in and they ran a tournament. Obviously, they're incredible what they do. If someone came in and ran a shitty tournament, would it be the same? But yeah, I mean, I would love to see people come in and add infrastructure, add tournaments, because if people if they put their money on the line, Melee is always a good bet, right? And now's a great time. So I'm optimistic about what comes next for Melee.
There's one thing really quickly that I just remembered. Summit ran they ran 2 roast tournaments. That's crazy. That they ran they ran events that were straight up they had tournaments and everything, but they had like a whole live popular segment. Like, look, say what you want about the quality of the jokes. Wasn't always 100%.
Do you remember when Ludwig yelled the C word and he's not even Australian? They just
It's
aired
just-
that.
Yeah.
They were just like, sure.
It's now tied for forever in the VODs. They just casually ran 2 hosts or roasts. Are they gonna run the roast of the Crimson Blur this year? Who knows? Like, there's just that's so crazy that they just ran like a huge sponsor got into the scene like Summit, ran these invitationals, became one of the strongest brands, and one of their offerings was just casually like an entertainment, where the main appeal, the name of the event wasn't even like the tournament. It was literally like an entertainment, like something for people to watch. Like that's the kind of thing that I could show someone who's not like, I mean, maybe not all the jokes would land, but like it's a kind of like broad outreach, like entertainment, like in scheduled entertainment, which I think is like a really undertapped niche in Melee. But
So get on
that's
it,
a story
FlyQuest.
yeah, that's
Roast
a
of
story
Edwin
for another
Budding,
time.
FlyQuest, make it happen.
I'm not big enough for that, not yet.
Once you're FlyQuest, Edwin, you will be. I think we've got a lot of great discussions we had here. We're gonna move to the end of the show. We've got 2 things that I want to do beforehand. We have some questions from people on the Patreon. So let's see what we have. SSB Seal asked Moky a question. Moky, who are some Canadian players to watch out for in the next 2 or 3 years? And he specifically says he does not want to hear Zuppy or Elliott because they're already good. So who like what Canadian players are on the come up?
Well, Zuppy and Elliott.
Hey.
Like I don't know. Honestly, Canada's kind of like recently. Obviously, I know most about Ontario. When I went to Battle at BC, there were some really good players. I don't know why I'm blanking on the guy's tag I played. If I can quickly try to pull it.
Was it like Amrak or Polo or something?
Polo, yeah, Polo was fucking good. Like Polo was disgustingly good. I've seen Amrak. I didn't play Amrak, but Amrak looked insane too. Honestly, I was impressed by the because like I guess like not that it's the right way to see it, but like the kind of like conversation a lot of the time when it comes to Canada stuff, especially formulating people for Canada Cruise, is like, yeah, Ontario's like better. Ontario's the best. Like, let's put these people on and like whatever. But like, dude, I was impressed by the people I played when I was in like BC, and like I don't know, people there were good. Polo was really good, Amrak, and then in terms of Ontario, like I think Faust has been doing really well recently and has improved a lot and has been getting some good wins. And then like obviously the obvious again, Zuppy and Elliott are amazing. And then like I don't know, I think like Lotfee's got some pretty decent wins as well.
Yep.
Lunar Dusk has been good, but they kind of stopped competing for a while, I believe. But like, dude, I could have lost to them at LACS. It was fucking scary. I was like, if I didn't clutch one of the games, I good chance I lost. Like, they're insane. Like, I don't know. Canada is super underrated.
I think we talked about this earlier. That's like impossible to do a National Arcadian right now. But if you were to look at like a National Arcadian style crew battle, BC I think is very strong. I think Ontario as well.
Yeah, Ontario has so many.
Both regions are like super strong players that have not been top 100 yet. So yeah, I think that's a great question because there's a lot to go on. Do we have another great question, Edwin?
Yeah, we have another great question. It is for Moky. I want to add that nobody asked Blur a question. I guess he just wasn't in the cards. And the question for Moky is, who is the worst character that you think you could defeat the Crimson Blur with?
I don't know. Like, what are like the bad ones? Like, man,
Bowser, like
I don't
Kirby.
know. I'll be honest. My bad characters are fucking bad, man. Like, I'm like a top tier guy. I like playing like
Could
the good
Moshi
characters.
Could Moshi win?
I think Moshi. Honestly, Moshi's got a couple wins. Don't test me. Don't test me. Scared of Moshi. You know, not in tournament, but honestly, maybe Moshi. I'd put it on the line.
Is that the worst? Is that the worst
Dude,
you can go,
dude,
or you
Moshi's
think there's
pretty fucking bad? I'll be honest. I could.
Do you have like
I
a
don't know.
Doc? Do you have a Mario? A Ganon?
Honestly, my Mario
DK?
gives Zane trouble when we do Iron Mans. Maybe my Mario's a pretty.
How long is this
okay.
What about,
podcast running? Like,
What
how
about,
long
like,
we got to be
We're
Mewtwo?
almost
here?
at the end.
What about Mewtwo?
How long do I got to sit here?
Oh, my Mewtwo sucks. No, I don't know. Maybe honestly probably the Marios. Maybe I don't know. My Marios are pretty okay. I could see them doing.
Not even Kirby?
stuff. No, man. Dude, when you
Blur,
get
what do
down
you
there,
think?
Like,
I think his Fox, his Marth, his Falcon, and his Falco are heavily favored because he's sick. I don't think anyone else could do it.
This is a rude question to ask Blur.
Yeah,
I had to hear your take.
I think.
What about
I
a
think.
Sheik?
I mean, I don't know about it. I've literally never seen a Sheik, so I've nothing to go off of. But I know those other characters of his are sick, and I'm like, yeah, those seem hard. But I know too little about his other characters to really say.
Maybe we'll make it happen. We'll schedule you two a little stream.
After Chill and Samus, Moky,
Moky will start at the top of the tier list, and he'll just go down. You'll play best of threes, just go down. That'll be a great stream event. You'll get your Slippy match number up, Blur. So that seems like a win.
I just like to point out, like, yo, I'm just like a humble mid-level player. You know, according to West Coast Melee, and people are putting me up against literally the best players in the world. Like, what is going on here?
It's the amount of respect we have for the kind of player.
Give me a fair fight. What the fuck, dude?
One time,
we give you Slime.
This is fucked up, bro. Like,
Slime made it out of
solid.
round one pools at Genesis.
He's good.
You have a good win.
yeah, sure. You know, I'll take slime badges. Like, I'll take any comer. I'll take Moki. We can run it. I don't care. But I just feel like it's kind of insane. That's all.
You guys been good sports. We've got one thing before we are set to go. Blur, you were here for this, but Moki, I think last time you were on, you were early on. We didn't have this segment. I believe it's an unnamed segment, but known by the fans as Touchin' Grass. So obviously, you know, Blur, you've been through this before, but Moki and for the audience, we talk about Melee all the time, obviously. And because of that, I think people find it hard to think of people in the Smash community as anything but Smashers. Yeah. So just a little segment here, you know, quick thing where we can talk about stuff that we've been doing recently that is not involved with Melee or not involved with Smash, something that's been going on with our lives that doesn't have anything to do with that. So to give you guys time to think, I will go first. Past 2 weeks since our last episode, some of the bands that I really like have been releasing albums, and they're all pretty good. The weather in the Northeast is fluctuating, so I've been taking long walks, and it's been like in the rain and fog, in the snow, in like 70-degree weather, and just listening to all this different music while experiencing that is very fun. Albums by Mitski, Big Thief, Animal Collective, Black Country New Road. I also got a stream for the new Beach House record that's about to come out. I've liked all of those a lot, all released within the past 2 weeks or so. but one song has been something that has been emblematic of the past 2 weeks for me. It's a song that came up on shuffle on one of my playlists. A song called Corona by the Minuteman, and you might know it more as the theme song to Jackass, which is the real touching grass moment for me this week. I have really never watched Jackass my entire life, but for some reason, I don't know. I like the people involved with it. I like the directors. I like know the directors, and I like what they do. So I've always thought of it as something that I want to watch. And hearing that song reminded me of it, and knowing that Jackass Forever is coming out in theaters, is already out in theaters, I guess. I watched all of the movies. I watched 1, 2, and 3. I watched 2.5. I watched 3.5. I watched the first 2 seasons of the TV show. I've not watched Bad Grandpa. I don't know if I am. And then 2 days ago, I went to the theater. Not a packed theater. I'm not ready for that. But I went to a theater and I watched Jackass Forever. I have to say I'm a pretty big fan. I think that the way they're put together is really underrated. Like just the pacing of it, and the way that like the individual comedic beats of all of the stunts work out, I think is really good. The individual roles that they have, the dynamic that they have within the group, like I think this is just like lightning in a bottle type thing, because I don't know how well thought out it is, but what comes together on the screen is pretty amazing. I want to say I also watched like Annihilation, like a cool like indie movie. Like I'm not I'm able to watch. I have multitudes, but the thing definitely has been Jackass, and I lived for a year in the town where Bam grew up. I saw the show and the movies and saw scenes that I knew where they were. So that was very fun. But yeah, for this week, this past 2 weeks, I guess, the thing that has been most emblematic of my life outside of Smash has been Jackass. Edwin, what's been going on with you?
Oh, can I request that I go last?
Okay, Blur, what's going on with you?
Thank you.
Last time it was the Ruins. You were really into Ruins.
Oh, I was really into Ruins.
Do you remember that part of your life?
You have a very touching description of it.
I traveled. It was fun. Let's see. Man, what did I do outside recently? I mean, I watched the Super Bowl like every red-blooded American. Can I talk about video games that I've been playing?
Yeah,
that are not Melee.
sure.
So I think I said it on other streams, but I've been playing a lot of the classic Doom series. But things I want to talk about for right now is a lot of point-and-click adventure games. The Milk Outside series, Milk Inside, Milk Outside, the Shiva, Samurott, and now I'm going through Missionarium. And one thing I realized about point-and-click adventure games is really I forgot about is, unlike every other game genre, which I like them to be hard as nails, and I like to play on the highest difficulties and shit, because it's, God gamer. It's my blood, and I'm stubborn. And I really like being challenged like that. Point-and-click adventure games, there is no worse hell for me than when you get stuck on some shit and you're just clicking around a screen in those type of games, if you guys have ever played them, and you literally just don't know where to go, and you're just sitting there for 2 hours, like trying to figure out if you can get past a certain screen or not. And it's really clicking for me that like it's the only game genre where I want the games to be easy as shit, because I just really want the story and the environment and like whatever, because I really don't give a fuck about the little puzzles. I don't. And it's making it hard because I like those games, but I really don't care about solving about the gameplay. It's not the gameplay that really makes me like those games. So I don't know. I'm still playing them, but just a random thought. Kind of feel the same way about like JRPGs and RPGs too, where it's like if the higher difficulty just means I have to grind more. Like now I'm sitting there 7 hours grinding in the fucking wild grass. I'm just like, maybe normal difficulty is fine, you know. And for single player games, I'm literally like I crank it to the highest if I can. But for those, I'm just like I'm not so sure anymore because it's just like it seems just like a bunch of time wasted.
Yeah, I love playing
Any
RPGs.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
Any examples, Blair?
Of which one? So I mean I recently beat Ni no Kuni on the hardest difficulty, and literally the only difference is I grinded probably like 6-7 hours in that game, and that sucked, right? Like I wouldn't have fun doing that. But I had to in order to beat the harder difficulties. Like it wasn't an option. Like there was no outplaying. It was just like, bro, your shit's not high enough level. That's just the
Blur, you
bottom
ever
line.
play a Grim Fandango?
Yeah, I love Grim Fandango.
Yeah, so I love Grim Fandango too. I will say when I played it, I had to look up what to do in the part where my memory might be I'm a little rusty, but like you have to throw a paper, like the way you progress the story is that you throw a paper ball down a chute or something.
Sounds
I
like
think I
spoilers to
remember.
me.
I remember what you're talking about.
Yeah, and like the idea is that the character does it. The main character, I forget his name. He does it out of boredom at the office to progress the plot, and then like a bunch of crazy stuff happens as a result. Now I remember sitting there for like an hour. I was like, I have no idea where to go. Like
Yeah.
going to every area, talking to people. One point and click adventure game I do love is Disco Elysium, though. I would strongly recommend that.
That's more of like an RPG though, right? It's like a
It's
Western.
done in like the point and click style.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. But you know what I mean. Like it's actually a specific type of gamer pain that's like way different.
yeah,
Because
I know what you mean.
when I'm playing like a game where I die a lot, at least I'm getting better, and every time I get to try again, and it's like I'm still playing, you know. But like in a point and click adventure game where I have nowhere what to do, and I'm literally just clicking random art objects on the screen, it's like I'm actually wasting my life away. Like this is horrible. And so it's like I actually feel like that's what's holding back the genres, that they're just not fucking easy enough. It's okay for them to be easy because the gameplay is just not the reason why anyone's there. Like, why did you like Grim Fandango? Why did I like Grim Fandango? Because the characters were cool, the story
Yeah,
was dope,
it's
the
a great
art was dope,
environment.
the environment was cool. You know, there's like handful of puzzles here and there. That's why I like if ones of the more modern like Little Misfortune and Franbo, those were actually not pretty approachable and easy. And I like those games because I never really got stuck, and I'm fine with. I don't want to get stuck. Being stuck in those games is like so bad. It sucks. And so yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm alone in this. Maybe people like hard adventure games, point and click adventure games, but I really don't.
Yeah, I agree with you on point and click adventure games. I don't mind grinding or like difficult RPGs, but
Mm.
yeah,
All
definitely
right,
for point
Edwin,
and
this
click.
might be your entry into touching
No,
grass.
no, no. Sorry. I please let me go last. Let me go last. Moki, you go.
Moky.
So honestly, mine is super similar to Wheat. I I honestly I've been putting a lot of effort into doing like melee stuff and like content stuff and like YouTube. I've been very busy with that. Even like when I'm not streaming, I put a lot of effort into it. But when I haven't been doing that, I've been going for walks. It's like the saving grace over COVID is I go for walks, and I've been listening to this one album for the last like month, and that's the main thing I've listened to. It's the newest Strokes album, The New Abnormal.
okay.
I've never listened to the Strokes, but I listened to that album, and I haven't stopped listening to it. It's fucking great. And I've just been continuously listening to that, and then a couple days ago, I think it was on Sunday, I went to the theaters, and I have never been a Jackass guy until like a year ago. I watched. I don't remember if I even watched all of them, but I watched like at least two. I think I might have seen them all with my friends, and I really wanted to see the movie, and it was great. We coincidentally, it was only me and my friends I went with, and then like a random couple who was behind us, and that was the entire theater. So it wasn't like a packed thing or anything, but yeah, I watched that, and then I got home and I was just very intrigued and interested. So I have just been honestly deep diving into that stuff, like just more so about like the people. Like I watched like a documentary last night about Steve-O, and like I've been reading up on stuff. I actually got a book today in the mail. It's it's like this.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm gonna
Damn.
read that. Yeah,
Wow.
like literally got it today. I opened it up. I ended stream, opened it up because it was out front of my door. I was like, okay, now I gotta go get ready to do this. So
Dude,
like
how did
I'm
I
gonna
get out jackassed?
yeah.
I
So I'm
like
gonna
watched everything I
That's really
could.
funny.
Get the
yeah. So
book.
I'm gonna probably start reading this tonight, and yeah, it's just I'm very very intrigued. I've been watching like the Hot Ones stuff and whatever. I've just been like just very interesting to they talk about some fucked up shit. It's like crazy.
I will say, I watched the movies. I signed up for a Paramount Plus free trial, 7 days. Movies go by super quickly, so I was able to watch 1, 2, 3, 2.5, 3.5 there. And I on Amazon you can buy the seasons of a Jackass. It's $2 a piece for the
Oh
entire season.
damn. Damn.
And it's like 5, 6 episodes, right? But it's like I don't know what's $2 to
Yeah.
me. It's like 3 hours of content or so. I think the episodes are good. You can also find like the best ones on YouTube. Yeah, I didn't know I was gonna be the guy who got really into Jackass, but I like all their personalities. I think they're good. I was
Dude,
talking to
it's
Slime about it the other day. I was like, dude, I think Dave England's my favorite, and then he was like, Chris Pontius is mine. I was like, damn, maybe you're right. Maybe Chris Pontius is the best.
dude. Wheat. Okay, not to not spoil it. Do you have a favorite thing from the news one? Like a favorite, a thing that
Yeah,
sticks out the
Silence of the
most?
Lambs.
Dude,
I
mine's
think.
so
I
stupid.
think that's like the go-to, but the levels to it is great, and I love seeing the new one's great because there's new cast members. I don't think that's been said.
Yeah,
Seeing the different reactions to of the new cast members and the old cast members, they both know that there's more
yeah,
coming, right? But it's like the old cast members are just like, okay, like I can't go out.
yeah.
Yeah, I can't do this because I know that there's going to be something that hits me. It's really great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
I have been, I do not know how, but like by sheer willpower, them making all these movies just like are, it captures their lives at the time. It captures like filmmaking in a way. uh and they all have different vibes. I don't think that was
yeah,
intentional. I just think that's what happens when you take 10 years in between movies, or you're sober in one and everyone's on drugs in another. They become like these different beasts, and like it's weird how two has a different vibe than three and stuff like that.
yeah.
I don't know. I could go off on this, but I
What
will.
about?
I will let. I don't know if you have anything more to say, and if not, then we can go on to Edwin.
I'll just say, I like it's my to not spoil it. And I feel like you might laugh at this because it's I feel like a stupid one to be like, this is like the one thing in my brain, like the one stunt I guess that stands out to me from the new one is the paddle ball thing. It's
Dude, you were explaining it. I thought you were gonna say that. No, it's a good one.
it's just so it's just so stupidly funny, man. It's like, why? Like, what a good idea. I
Yeah.
won't spoil it, but it's just so fucking dumb.
To anyone who has not, to anyone who seems like we're idiots talking about like people hurting themselves, um, I think it's probably on YouTube by itself. I would look up from Jackass 2, I believe. It's the one where they get Wee Man and they throw cards at his butt. I would look that up. I don't know how you look it up. Wee Man cards butt or something. I think that's one of the best ones they've done, and I think that like if you are a non-believer, that might prophetize you. But I don't know, moky. I don't know. Maybe we'll be talking about this more, but for now, let's move on to Edwin. Edwin, this is the you wouldn't go second, you wouldn't go third. You're only going last. What's the big reveal? What have you been up to?
All right. So I'm sure that heading into this week, like if you knew that I was going to be on the show, you probably expect me to talk about football. This is something that I really love. The biggest football match of the year, or the last season happened. You'd probably expect me to talk about that. But I'm not going to talk about the Super Bowl. I'm actually going to talk about something that I've been watching over the last week, which is the second season of Love is Blind. And specifically, I want to talk about some lessons, some takeaways that I have for this. And these are very important takeaways. These are just my opinions. As a married man, I have an approach to life, a perspective on things now that may be different from wherever you are, dear listener, or anyone else. But if you want to know my advice, after watching the show, talking to people, all my experience, whatnot, whether whether you're a lady, whether you're a gentleman, whether you're a non-binary person, I truly think when it comes to dating, it's actually really, really simple. And the older you get and the more experience you get in this kind of thing, I truly think nothing beats a good personality. Nothing beats someone who is really like sure of themselves, fully owns up to who they are, is willing to communicate that, willing to be honest. I genuinely think how you carry yourself is like the best thing. I've talked to lots of people who like want dating advice or want like relations advice, and I really think that it's just people overcomplicate these things. It's so simple. They think, oh well, like what, am I not, is this person above my league, is this person below my league, or whatever. It is bullshit. If you own who you are, if you have goals, if you're clear about those goals, if you just if you communicate them to the other person, you see if your goals are compatible or not. I think it's actually so easy. I think it's genuinely like the best life, or not the best, but it's a very important life skill to have just in general beyond dating. But I think when it comes to dating, people just like overcomplicate and they add all this like irrelevant shit that doesn't matter. That's like superficial. We're all gonna die someday. It doesn't matter, like, whether you look like something at one moment or another or whatnot. Whether it's truly just like, who do you want to spend your time with at the end of the day. I really, 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 truly believe that. And just like maybe watching this dating show and like talking to other people and like talking to my spouse or whatever has given me this perspective. But I've just like, man, like it's so simple. Like it's not as hard as people make it out to be. That's
Edwin,
all I'm
that
gonna
was
say.
beautiful. I love that your touching grass segment for the week was love. And it also kind of goes back to your roots. If anyone wants to learn more about what a note has to say here, you can look up Dr. Love. Is that what it's called? The Love Doctor by Anoke Calakurthi on the Daily Campus. This is not Edwin's first, tryst with the matchmaking game. Edwin, maybe we'll get you. Hey, Melee Stats gets big enough, we'll get you. You'll be saying this to a whole audience. We'll get an entire convention center just listening to you do this, like on a big stage. You got like the mic on the side of your mouth. You're pointing to people. Maybe that's how Melee Stats gets the big bucks.
Look, I'm just saying, I didn't hear a disagreement. If there's a disagreement here, I would love to hear it. I would love to weigh it into consideration. Maybe even adjust the way I see things. But I
It's
think
horrible advice.
It
really
you say
is.
that?
The reason it's horrible advice is you're not knowing your audience. Like, look, man, a lot of the people who are listening to this are on their computer all fucking day.
Wow.
Maybe no, seriously, they're on their computer all fucking day. They're mostly playing video games. They're chilling out, doing whatever, and they'll go to, let's say, a Melee tournament, mostly filled with all dudes. Maybe they'll have fucking Tinder on their phone, not getting a lot of matches, right? That's like you think their personality is going to get them through that fucking part? Probably not. Most people that you literally are talking to, their problem isn't like not being true to themselves. It's that they're literally not out there and not fucking talking to anybody. Period.
I don't think
That's most of our friend group, actually.
That's not fair.
You're just not paying attention, bro. If you don't think so.
No,
right?
dude, you're just saying
You're
because
just
I'm
not
married,
paying-
like I have blinders.
No, you have blinders, and I'm telling
No,
you, that's what's
dude.
happening.
Oh my
I
God.
know the life, the literal, the average day for a lot of the people, and they're my people, and I appreciate it. They wake up late, usually with a horrible sleep schedule, and may or may not toke a blunt, and they play some unranked. Maybe they'll go to their job or whatever if they have one, and it's not a lot of like time for this shit, right? And
right.
they're not putting that level of effort in.
I
That
don't
has
agree
nothing to do with
this.
their fucking personality.
All right, we're
Most people
1-1
just
then.
aren't even putting themselves out there, and
Moky,
they don't know how and
Moky,
how to get the attention. And you're just
we're-
not answering
This
that.
isn't, we don't need to vote on this.
You're not.
we
You're
have to
not.
vote on this. We have
You're
to
not
vote on this.
answering. You're not answering what's actually the problem for 90+% of people.
Well, first off, I don't think that's the case for. I have some faith in the listeners of the show and viewers. Moky,
All I'm gonna say is
we're not going to Moky.
No,
I
I need to know.
all I'm saying is me and Wheat laughed at fucking throwing cards at someone's ass, and then we ended up here. So I don't know what's going on, man.
I need to wait. Look, I'm gonna put my cards on the table. I need to know if I got owned or if I. This is very important to me.
Edwin, to be honest, I kind of tuned out what you were saying once you started going off on this. I didn't really hear anything. I don't know what points you made.
Okay.
I think you're pro love, but I don't really know anything else other than that.
He's like the Panda Global rankings, bro. He said nothing.
Right,
you know,
I got owned.
Edwin,
nothing was said.
All right,
he
never
said
mind.
nothing. He said love is love, bros. Fucking compelling content, bro. Real
whatever,
compelling.
Whatever, dude. I got owned.
It was profound. No, it really changed my view on the world.
Edwin, what's gonna happen? Maybe not San Jose. I think that's I don't know what their nightlife looks like. But next time we're in a big city for an event, if there's a Vegas event, if there's an Atlanta event, I don't know. Maybe at the function, if you're going to the function, what we're going to do is we're going to get a group of a bunch of single people and you're going to be all of our wingmen. You're going to be like the shared wingman, and we're going to go out, and this is where you put your skills to the test. Like I
think-
don't want to speak on your ability right now or what you said because I wasn't listening. But we'll put it to the test. And Blur, maybe you'll be there. If not, I'll send you results. I'll like send a spreadsheet over of how it went, and then
You
we
think
can
I'd be a good
deliberate from
wingman?
there. I've no way of knowing. I
Moky?
would. I mean,
We need to vote
Oh,
again.
don't ask Moky.
Oh my god.
Moky,
What's up?
I appreciate you being on. Been a great guest.
I'm a terrible
You had to deal-
wingman, by the way.
You had to deal with these two.
The
Moky,
worst,
if
the
people-
worst trait of a wingman is being too goddamn attractive. They'll just go to me.
Moky, if people want, where can they do so?
So twitch.tv/moky_dokie, MOKY_DOKIE. My Twitter's the same. And I think on YouTube, my name is just Moky, but the URL is youtube.com/mokydokie. Spelled the same, but no underscore. And we are trying to grow the YouTube a lot. So if you're only to check out one of those, please do the YouTube because my editor is working hard and we're putting effort in and we are trying to push that. So
When are we getting just Moky? As the
dude, this motherfucker on Twitch is not. So you can like recycle names, and they have to be inactive. And this I don't know. I've been tuned into his page. You know, maybe it's like approaching like stalker territory. But like, dude, I don't see you doing anything. How do you still have the name?
I remember-
I'm trying my hardest, man.
I had you on. We had a great episode of Melee Stats Deep Dives on. We talked about Gobble 2019, and you told me that you wanted to be Moky, just twitch.tv Moky, and now here we are in February 2022. Hopefully, I don't know. Did you whisper them?
No, I feel like if I was in their shoes and some dude whispered me, "Hey, can I have your name?" I'd be like, "No, screw you." So I just
gotta
don't want
put
to
some
be
of
the
that
guy to
moist
do
money
it.
up. Come on.
I just don't. I don't know. I'll
20
just be Moky. You know what?
$25 through
Now
Venmo.
there's like I'm
Come on.
Moky and I'm Doking. We'll roll with it. We'll just
True.
roll with it. Why not? But
Alright, well-
if that guy decides to
Moky,
delete
can
it,
I help you out for a second? I'm just looking at your Twitter profile. You don't have a link on there. Add
For
your
what?
stream link to your fucking.
why not? I swear
Twitter
I
profile.
do.
You don't.
What?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Some basic social media advice.
Where is
Put
it?
your
Where'd it go?
stream link in
Oh,
your profile
dude.
page, bro.
My Twitter got taken down like a month ago. And when I got it back, they took out all of my stuff, so I forgot to put it back.
Well,
It was
that's
there.
what I'm here
Thank
for.
you. Dude,
So
thank
just
you,
letting
dude.
you
Oh
know.
my god.
Yeah.
So you can follow him, Moky Doki, on seemingly everything, but it's the YouTube that's the big draw. What about you, Blur? Where can people
What about
follow
me?
you? Where can people
Bro,
follow you?
They already do. Come on. I don't need to do this. Let's just move on.
All right. What about
End the fucking pod. I got shit to do.
Well, hey, I was trying to until Edwin had to talk about love.
I gotta pee. Let's go.
I think everyone here has got to pee.
Let's go.
All right. If you want to follow Melee Stats, you can follow us on Twitter, Melee Stats, or twitter.com/Melee Stats Pod. We post daily results. We post links to our articles on meleestats.co, such as Monday Morning Marth and When's Melee. If you want to check out the latest Monday Morning Marth, it's Blur Rank. You can do so at meleestats.co. Go over there, check it out. Our YouTube, Melee Stats, that's where we're going to have our long-form content, our video essays. And if you want to go over to our second channel, the Melee Stats Archive, we're going to have some bonus stuff, some secondary, some like sets sometimes, but it's a lot of it's these episodes. So if you don't catch these episodes live, you can do so over on Melee Stats Archive or any podcast streaming service of your choice. If you want to catch them live, you can do so at twitch.tv/Melee Stats. And if you love everything we do, you can support us at patreon.com/Melee Stats. Not as quickly as I've done it before. Becoming a bi-weekly show, I start to forget all of our socials, but you get there in the end. Blur, Moky, I appreciate you guys being on. Next time, we'll cut out Edwin. We'll knock out 20 minutes easily. Everyone will have a great time. Bladders will be fine.
But you won't get great dating advice.
Okay, so it seems like
nothing of value was lost.
Wow. All right. Okay.
All right. I appreciate you guys being on. Amazing guests and fun episode. I don't know if a Moky Blur episode was something that I ever thought would work, but this was great. I loved it. So thanks for being on. And thanks for watching, everyone. Just to reiterate, what I mentioned on our last episode. We are a bi-weekly podcast now, so we're not going to be.
I have to pee for fuck's sake. Let's get out of here. Wrap.
We're not going to be on. We're not going to be on next week, but we'll be on the week after. We'll see you then. Peace.